And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to VKH Live. How's everybody doing? You guys hear us okay? I am your host, Jeff DeWitt. I am streaming to you live from a corner of my bedroom as I am still working on moving into my new place. But with me also is Winona. Hi, Winona. How you doing?
Hello. I'm dying. I'm
Dying.
always dying.
Yeah.
Always dying.
So we have a extra special stream plan tonight. We're calling it the J-Rock State of the Union. We're basically just going to be going through Japanese rock music in general, kind of in recent memory. So a lot of it's going to be from 2018. We may just kind of do some general impressions of certain bands if they've been less active or if they had anything noteworthy in 2017. And we've picked a whole list. We took some requests from you guys. Thanks for tweeting at us your recommendations. So we're going to do some of those. I also picked some of the more high-performing bands from the Oricon this year. Going to try to get to a few of those as well. Just kind of get a general vibe for how J-Rock is right now, basically. And also, I know it does say J-Rock State of the Union, but we will have a little bit, a handful of J-Metal bands, just like some of the ones that are more like mainstream kind of friendly and stuff, or the ones that border on the line between J-Rock and J-Metal. But we just decided to just like call it J-Rock for simplicity, like J-Rock State of the Union for simplicity's sake. So if you see a little crossover there, cut us some slack on that. But what we're probably going to do is do a proper J-Metal stream in the future at some point for that. Some of these, though, they just kind of pop up when you hear the word J-Rock in your head. Just a couple quick announcements. So for those of you who are new, this is put on by VKH Press. We are a J-Rock and v-kei news website, and we do all kinds of reviews and interviews and special content like this. You should subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, which is VKH Press. And if you enjoy tonight's stream, if you could give us a like, we'd appreciate that. And if you have any comments and you're seeing this later, we would love to hear your feedback. Otherwise, feel free to say whatever you want in the chat. If you feel so inclined, we do have a way for you to support us financially right now. We are a volunteer-run site, but we have a Streamlabs account. The link is in the description. Basically, it's the equivalent of the super chat on YouTube. Which I'm actually going to start referring to it as that just for simplicity's sake. So if you're not familiar with how a super chat works, if you donate any amount on Streamlabs to VKH, you get to leave a message, and then it guarantees that we will read your message online. So if you disagree with my opinion, you can actually force me to say the opposite of my opinion, or if you have a question you want to ask us, you can, you can have us, answer the question, things like that. So only do it if you feel like you want to. There's no requirement. Watching our stuff, sharing our stuff, liking our stuff, it's just as much appreciated. But on that note, we do now accept cryptocurrency, I believe. I'm just throwing it out there. It's not like a huge thing. It was just we got an email about it, so I turned it on. So I'm like, okay, so the 1% chance people who use Streamlabs with cryptocurrency. I mean, I guess we're catering to you now. Outside of that, I think we can get into it. This stream is just for entertainment purposes only, so anything we say, any opinions we hold, doesn't reflect the official views of VKH itself. In terms of how this stream is going to work, we're going to do Indian major bands for J-Rock. We're kind of going to do them together. We're going to have a segment on the v-kei scene towards the end, where we're going to kind of, since v-kei does kind of fall under J-Rock. So, those will be a little bit more separate since we know there's a bit of a, you can classify them a little bit more differently, or at least our readers do usually. And just a heads up, so we're going to be running through like a ton of bands. So we're going to be giving like general impressions of a lot of these bands and how they've performed recently. But just due to the scope of like all the different bands inside of J-Rock, there are going to be things that we miss, details that we don't cover, things like that. So if you have anything that you would like us to cover, or if you have anything that you want to point out about a band that we're talking about or something to add on to, please do read it in the chat. I will be going through the chats in between, or towards the end of us covering each band. Asuka says "Beat Connect" in the chat. That's awesome. I get that joke. Yeah, let's get started. You ready to go, Winona?
Yep.
All right. So, let's see. The first one we're going to get into is, I've also got these images up here that I'm going to be changing periodically. So, just bear with me as I do that from time to time. So the first one we're going to be talking about is 1OK Rock. So from a 2018 perspective, the only thing that we have to talk about really is their single Change, which I think was a very controversial. It was controversial at VKH for sure. A controversial choice in direction. It's very pop. It's very. It's actually abnormally pop for 1OK Rock. I did learn recently, though, that I was reading an interview that Taka gave, and he did say that this song was made specifically for a Honda commercial. It wasn't even like a single that came out, and then Honda was like, let's hey, we'd like to use that song, because that's happened to them in the past. It was like he decided to specifically make it for this Honda commercial. He had also said that, he didn't really have any particular direction for like a new album or anything like that in mind when he was making the song. He was just kind of looking at what the best way to, what's a new direction that he could try out. So I did want to throw that out there just because that was kind of a concern for us, is that we were, at least some of us at VKH were like, is this 1OK Rock now from here on out?
I don't know about you, but I was like, I guess this is a Taka solo project now.
Yeah, that was another thing, is it felt like because there were so little guitars and things like that. Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because it's like, I don't know, like I'm getting the impression that it was like mostly, it was mostly him doing it. So let me go ahead and, I was trying to decide on which image to do. I think I'm just going to stick with that one. How's that look? Oh, cool. It came out okay. So yeah, that's the single cover. But Winona Chat is saying that you're a static image.
I'm probably just sitting really still.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we're both.
Am I a static image?
You might have been for a second. Yeah, it looks like you just came back.
Yeah, I'm just sitting really still. But yeah, dude, Change. I remember when I first heard it, I was like, oh no. No, it was not what I would really expect from 1OK Rock, because like all that time we'd been hoping that what they were doing was for the greater good of their career, and then they came out and became Japanese Imagine Dragons, and then we were just like, oh no, it's over. But if it's really just for a commercial, I hope whatever they put out next is better.
Yeah, I guess so, because it's like, I don't know. Like I feel like I felt like I need to clarify it, but like at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily clarify it for a lot of other bands. It's like, if you're gonna make it for a commercial, usually you would still, it's going in your catalog, right? So, yeah, it was kind of an awkward period of time because I remember on the podcast and things like that, we were we were using Imagine Dragons in particular as like a particular example of like shitty pop rock. So it's really awkward when you do that. And then, one of the bands you actually really like makes an Imagine Dragons sounding song. It's like, oh God. I personally, this was too much for me, too much pop rock. Winona going for the jugular shade already.
I mean, gotta be honest.
Gotta be honest, Yeah, I mean, it was too far for me. I was kind of into Ambitions, even though like that was just controversial. I think like a lot of people were like kind of on the fence about it, but I think for Change was too far for a lot of people. Except maybe they're more like pop-oriented fans or they're hardcore fans.
Asuka said we've been calling them Japanese Imagine Dragons for a while. We've been calling them that since Change came out.
Yeah, I mean that was
like we were like, oh no.
Yeah, so moving forward, I hope they move away from that. We'll see if they do. I imagine they've given hints about future directions they want to go. Honestly, like at this point, it's like it really just depends on like I usually just wait until the music itself is out, unless I'm like really in tune with the band, or I don't know. Just with One OK Rock, they've like changed and experimented like so much. It's kind of like hard to predict like the exact sound of what's coming next. I mean, we can just say it'll get more pop, but I don't even know. Okay, so I think that about covered. Do you have anything else you want to say about One OK Rock? Is there anything you're hoping to see from them?
Just oh man, I just really want to see a new version of old One OK Rock. That's where I am at right now.
Isn't that My First Story?
No.
I think it's My First Story.
No, My First Story is the band of Taka's brother, so it's just like
I know.
Not copycat, but like he's doing what his brother already did that proved to be a success. So like go a different way.
Is that not the new version of old One OK Rock though?
It's just old One OK Rock rehashed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I'd put that.
Okay, we got a couple of super chats. I'm going to go ahead and read them. Karine, how do you pronounce this name, Winona? Karine? Karine. I've only Karine. Sorry, Karine. I know I've read your name.
Karine.
I don't know.
That's disrespectful, Jeff.
Or what I meant to say was Corinne. Like, is it Corinne or Karine?
There wouldn't be an E.
Okay. So sorry, I'm half awake, but nice to hear from you, Karine. Karine says Rookie is the best singer in the world. That's the Gazette. And then Jesus Christ, Gula just donated $40, saying just making it rain. Wow, thanks.
Thanks for making it rain.
Jeez, thank you.
Money in our PayPal account. Like,
wow, I appreciate it. That's the second time she's done that.
So much love. Feel in my heart, feel in my chest.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one on the list. So we want to move into talking about Alexandros for a little bit.
Ah, yes.
Do you want to kick this one off, Winona?
I can kick it off from Kabuto.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about the new single because I have words.
Oh, okay.
You kick it off. Right,
yeah. Okay, so so just a quick recap. So their last album, the last album that Alexandros put out was called Exist. It came out in 2016. It was they had some of the singles on it were what were they? There was one called Kaiju, which was like a rap rock thing. There was one called Girl A, which was a electronic rock thing. Oops, that was not the right. I copied the wrong thing. And then I'm trying to think of a few others. I believe Moonsong was on there, but what was notable about their last album is that which they're now coming off of, is that was their first #1 album, like on the Oregon charts. It hit #1. So that was kind of a big deal. That was like they were at like max popularity, or like peak popularity for them. So then in December of 2017, they put out a single called Ashita Mata. And they actually put up on their YouTube channel like the PV for the A side, which was just the title track. And then one of the B sides is called I Don't Believe in You. And that had a lyric video for it. So the title track, Ashita Mata, is very catchy alt rock / pop rock with some of the like more modern like 2018, 2017 like EDM sounds that are more atmospheric and kind of, I don't know, almost metallic. It's like the EDM scenes kind of like come out of that phase where they had like the chipmunk voices, but it's just like they've just like taken that general sound and just turned it into a sound as opposed to like, chipmunk tuning the vocals and stuff. So now you hear EDM songs with those sounds echoing throughout. So I thought that was pretty forward thinking for a rock band in general to do. And then I Don't Believe in You I thought was pretty cool. It's kind of like a punk song with some industrial rock or almost like drum and bass-esque sounds like thrown throughout. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Still very Alexandros, right? Like kind of in line with, their past stuff, which is like they'll do really like, mainstream friendly songs. They'll do very like, like catchy songs, and then they'll do they'll do some raw songs, some punk songs, but then they also, but all of that kind of has a certain level of experimentation and genre mixing with it. Now they put out this really interesting single this last month called Kabuto. And Winona, I'll let you give the first impression on this one.
It's great, but like, it's a great song. I enjoy the song thoroughly, and it's on Spotify and stuff. And I can't remember if the music video is out. No, the music video is out. And the music video focuses on, it shows everyone on TVs, and they kind of focus on the theme of being on these old television sets and being surrounded by security cameras and stuff like that. But the thing that really trips me up from the song is how there's like this one sample track where you hear like a guy saying, I got your ice cold soda and your ice cold water. Like it's really what it says. But the way they lined it up in the music video, because when I first started, I was like, maybe there's a reason for this. But when they lined it up in the music video, in the music video, they have like a woman's mouth on the television, on one of the television sets, and she's just kind of moving her lips, and I guess it's supposed to be to the words. So I don't know what they thought the dude was saying. I don't know if they thought it just sounded cool, but it does not fit in with the track at all. Because usually like, when you go to like conventions, when it's hot over the summer, you got people like selling water, and you usually just hear that when you're walking down the street. So I have no idea what they were trying to accomplish with that, considering that like when they sent out press releases about the single, they were like, it's going to be cutting edge sound, and it is. It's really different from what they usually put out. Not like totally different, but it's pretty different, and a little more alternative in comparison. But that's the only thing that really got me. Everything else, it sounded really cool. I really enjoyed the single.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
What was the exact lyric again? Soda in your soda water?
No, he's like, it's a guy saying, I got your ice cold soda and your ice cold water.
Oh,
but it just doesn't sound right in the song at all.
Wow.
Yeah, and the second song they had on that single, I think, was the one where they collaborated with a poet to write the lyrics, and it was a ballad. And That one's really beautiful too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just the Skype window keeps going static. I'm seeing the chat mention it. I got it to fix. I'm trying to just see what I can do to make sure it doesn't keep happening.
Okay.
It's not you, I don't think.
Nameless Gula said the guy from Otakon. Yeah, but like I don't know if it's really that guy specifically. I know he has like videos on YouTube, so maybe they took it from one of those. It's kind of funny. It's just really funny hearing it in a Japanese rock song. And that track, Kabuto, is also supposed to be a theme for the new Bleach movie coming out. So.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah, that's a fun fact.
Yeah, I will say that the thing that struck me the most about it is what they're doing to their guitars now, like the distortion on it. It really sounds like it reminds me of Royal Blood, if anyone's familiar with them.
I love Royal Blood.
Yeah, they're great.
And you're right.
Which is funny because Royal Blood's whole thing is that it's a bassist who sings with a drummer, and the bassist does this crazy kinds of distortion to his bass so that it sounds like a guitar, and sometimes a bass, and sometimes a guitar, and sometimes a bass. And so it's very unique and interesting, but it's like this, it's a very distinct, like, I don't know what you would call it. Like, it's like a mute, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like very filtered. It's very distorted. It's low and like kind of grating almost a little bit, which is very different from what like Alexandros is normally,
with clean guitars.
Yeah, they do very clean guitars. They don't do like this like sludgy kind of distortion on their stuff. But
yeah, they said they were going to be experimenting with the single a lot.
Muddy, thank you, Bryn. Bryn said it in the chat. Muddy, that's what I was looking for. Muddy distortion. So yeah, it was very interesting to see that from them.
I think they're probably trying to go into that more what's it called? Electronic route that every band is trying to go in right now.
Yeah,
like we've seen like several bands try, like every time a band tries to go into the electronic route, that first thing they put out when they do that, it's crap. Like it sounds like it would have been good, but the production's a little off.
Well, honestly, Alexandros has kind of been doing the electronic route for years, like at least on and off, like even before they broke out into the mainstream, they were playing around with that, and they straight up had like an electronic rock song on their last album. I was just kind of surprised that this was like a more particularly raw direction for them, because pretty much since they've gotten popular, or like over the like since for their last two albums, they still do some like interesting like sort of like raw rock sounding stuff, but I would still say that the majority of their success you could attribute to like their lighter stuff, which is fine, but if anybody listened to Alexandros back when they were called Champagne, back in the day, there was like a really healthy balance of both, and there was like some really interesting instrumentation going on, and so that's kind of been missing in certain parts of their last few albums. So if they want to go in this rawer direction, I would be curious to see what they're able to do, because their guitarist and bassist and even the vocalist, when he plays guitar, they're all very, very talented instrumentalists. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm really curious now. I honestly like heard this song very recently, and so I'm still trying to listen to it some more. But it was just very out of line from like their recent progression. So I was pleasantly surprised, I think.
No, yeah, they're just trying to experiment with a new direction. I'm guessing they don't want to get caught up in that general sound that most bands of their caliber have.
Right, yeah, which is actually really smart. Because this would be about that time, like their last album hit #1. The album before on Oricon, the album before that was #3, I think. So it's like they're kind of at that point where it's like if they were to sort of just coast and stick in this like mainstream kind of sound, that this would be the time, I guess. So I All right, I think we covered that pretty well. Let me see if chat has anything to say about that, about Alexandros. Yeah, they're all agreeing with the weird the weird lyric and um, lot of lot of live updates on Winona freezing, Winona unfreezing, a FaceTime call in the background. Cut her some slack, guys. She's on a she's on a phone. We're
I'm
both
in a difficult situation.
Yeah, we're both in like I know they're just teasing, but yeah, in case you guys do see anything weird or hear anything weird, I'm still in the process of getting my apartment completely moved in. I just recently moved, and Winona is in the process of finishing relocating. I'll describe it that way.
Yeah,
so,
best way to put it.
Yeah. So yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there in a week or two. I'll be back up and running for sure. So, all right, let's move on to the next one, which is Winona's favorite band in the whole wide world. Sorry, I'm trying to get over to the.
I hate you, Jeff.
The absolute favorite, the best ever,
so
Baby Metal.
hate it all. Gosh.
Okay, I have a question. Do you just not like any of Baby Metal's music, or are you just irritated with, or are you okay with their music, but you're irritated with the fact that they're now being associated with metal?
No, what I'm irritated with is that they don't write their own shit.
Oh, okay.
That's what irritates me, because that's not rock and roll. That's the only thing that bothers me. It's formulated.
So,
Stupid.
I just There's some people in the chat that like Baby Metal. There's some people in the chat that hate Baby Metal.
Like good music, but there's a reason why everyone likes their music. It was like formulated to be liked in the first place. Like their new single is nice, yeah. It's definitely harder than anything else they put out. So more power to them for that.
Yeah, they did.
But the way that they're operating right now is definitely like a pop idol group. Like whatever, the whole shit with Where's Yui Metal, that's such a J-pop idol group thing that happened where she just didn't show up and no one said anything. Had people not attacked them online, nobody would have said anything. Nothing would have happened from there. I don't even remember if anyone addressed it.
Yeah, so if anyone's not aware of what's going on, when Baby Metal was starting the U.S. leg of their tour, there was like a concert or two or three. I don't even remember how many concerts it was. Where Yui Metal, one of the girls, the littler ones, just completely didn't show up, and fans it's not that she didn't show up, it's that she wasn't there and there was no explanation provided, and just a backup dancer was in her place, and fans were freaking out, and they started a hashtag Where's Yui Metal, and yeah, it was, and so it was just a whole thing. It turned out being just that she was sick, and that she'd had some injuries in the past, and she was staying home and resting. But this was like certain press outlets had to really pull teeth to even like get that answer. Like they didn't give an official statement at first. Alternative press had to like reach out to them. I think they were the first ones that got it out. That got the.
Nah, what happened was like Loudwire had been pushing it for so long, and then as it got picked up, I don't remember who picked up on it first, but I remember seeing Loudwire first on my timeline because I follow all of them, and they kept talking about it because they had nothing else to talk about, and they kept posting about it like every other day, and like I guess then alternative press picked up on it, but it had to be Loudwire that got that response first because they're a metal website, right? And Baby Metal they cover Baby Metal, and because fans cared a lot, and because it was raking in a lot of numbers for them, they kept posting about it and getting people more riled up. And then you see this hashtag go viral on Twitter about where is UE Metal, and it had been going on for like a good week or two before we saw anything from Amuse, and it was just a whole PR disaster.
Yeah, so it was actually a notable event. Like normally this is the kind of stuff we leave for gossip, but it was like it got so like people were freaking out, and because there's zero communication, and it's like, oh man, that's it's a problem we've seen with certain Japanese bands in the past and stuff with the management. It's like just foreign bands in general. It's like it's hard with I would say with the language barrier and things like that. But at some point, you gotta be on point a little bit more. But that is an interesting point anymore. That it's a very very pop artist thing, because it's like.
It's such a no, not just pop artists, like specifically idol groups. That's specifically an idol group thing to do, to not mention anything that happened to the member that's just suddenly gone. Because like usually when a member leaves an idol group, not that I follow idol groups, I just understand this one, like a few things that happen where like if somebody leaves, they say they graduated, and it really just means that they're too old and their contract is up.
We got a super chat from Hisoku, who says, in brackets, Winona voice, and then my name is Winona, and I actually stan baby metal. Hisoku, I read that out loud because I guarantee you there's no way I could get Winona to read that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
But, we could just pretend she said it. But,
you can't. It's not possible.
It's not possible. What's your dollar amount that you would need?
$3,000. $3 million to get me to say I stand baby metal. Pay for all the things. Pay all the things.
Yeah.
Jeez. Dollar amount to get me to say it. Show me a number that makes me extremely surprised, and maybe I'll probably say it.
Yeah, so jumping to the single that they did put out, which was called Distortion. It's decent. It's decent for. It's actually a pretty. All right, let me step in real quick because I'm seeing a lot of. I'm going to do a little fact checking on the haters here. We're gonna rein in our emotions and look at this rationally. Okay.
No. I'm saying rationally, it's okay. Like
I'm looking in the chat. I'm seeing baby metal.
All right. Feel it.
No, they're picking up what you're putting down, but I just want to make sure we don't go off.
Picked up what I'm putting down. Hey, chat was good.
I just want to make sure we don't run off the cliff with this. I'm seeing a lot of baby metal is manufactured. Baby metal is manufactured. Baby metal is J-pop. It may be manufactured, but it's manufactured by someone who has an equal amount of experience with J-pop and metal. And I will remind you that the metal band that does perform with and is involved with the song creation process for baby metal is a combination of like metal superheroes, superpowers. So I think whether you're on the side of baby metal is a manufactured pop group and it's not real metal, or if you're like, oh, baby metal is totally normal metal, I think you're both kidding yourselves if you think it's that black and white. And I'm speaking especially after like talking to different fans over the last couple of weeks about it. So this is way more of a gray area than certain people would have you believe. Not referring to you, Winona, but I'm just like talking about in general. I've just seen it's like there's like these two sides, like
I'm
bipolar
like open-minded
sides.
when it comes to music. It's just like I can't. Like I know bands don't all. Bands generally write their own stuff, but they get help from like producers and shit to write their things. Like when Vamps came out with Underworld, like they didn't write that all on their own, and I'd had to get help for lyrics and shit like that. And then like Rookie like always collaborates with a bunch of people before he really goes in to write his own thing. And then that one thing he writes on his own, like when it comes to the album releases and stuff, when he writes the stuff and they all write their stuff and they learn their shit on whatever they studied, it turns out to be really great, right? But with baby metal, it's like I can just tell from how it sounds. It's not It's not. It doesn't. It's not. It's not it for me.
Well,
I just can't get into it.
yeah, well,
It
especially
just
with this
sounds like
last
pop
one,
music.
I think it's starting to fall more in line with what you've been saying lately. Like this
Yeah.
distortion one, it was still metal, but it was a very anime
So poppy.
opener friendly song. You know,
Super poppy. I don't
um,
know why. Like even though it has all the rough guitars and the heavy drums and stuff, it's still poppy. I don't know why. It just still is poppy. It might
I
be like the
yeah.
samples they put in there. I don't know. Just
Yeah, I will say, did you listen to their last album, Metal Resistance?
no.
It was absolutely. I don't care what people say about this. Okay, just quick background. Okay, I've been following
Mhm.
baby metal for the hell of it, for the lulz of it, for the gimmick of it, like since the beginning. I found them before they went popular. So I was totally down with it just being like a gimmick, a goof, and just kind of this weird, crazy thing that somehow they were able to make catchy,
Oh,
right?
the give me chocolate and shit like
Way
that.
before that.
Yeah.
Way before that. I was
Yeah,
following
yeah,
him
yeah.
since first single.
When they were a
Way,
joke band.
way
Not even a band.
before people even knew. Like I'm talking like under 300,000 video views on their first
Because
video.
Jeff's hipster. And
Because
he's
I'm
trying to say,
hipster when it comes to
he said
crazy.
I listened to it before it was cool.
I'm a baby
Trying
metal
to say.
hipster, yo. Look, if
He's
kawaii
saying-
metal's gonna be a new scene, I want to be the hip insider on it. Okay.
You better be ready for Lady Baby while you're at it.
Oh, I'm up to date. They're still garbage. But continuing on. So basically, so their first album was it was the gimmick of baby metal, and I feel like people kind of like locked in on that. Was like, oh well, this is all there is. I feel like baby metal missed an opportunity with how they promoted their second album because I don't think the PVs that they did, I don't think they did enough. And I don't think they pushed the music out there enough because their second album is actually like a pretty solid electronic core album. Like it's pretty damn good. If you it doesn't feel like kawaii metal. It's not the kawaii metal. Like that stuff is gone. It's evaporated. They're basically the girls are singing as like a melodic clean vocalist sort of thing. The only thing that's still there is the chanting of the little girls, and you could say that that's in place of screaming sometimes because then there's backing screaming and stuff. So it was actually they were going in a really solid direction as far as I'm concerned. There were some non-promotional tracks on that album that were like really good. That I was like, this is not supposed to be happening. Like this was a gimmick. This was a goof. So now I'm a little bit more unsure because now we're back somewhere in between, right? So I'm seeing don't be a hipster, Jeff, don't do it, and then a little bit later Savage when I flip the script on you. And then Bryn says big shout out to the main girl for singing live now. Many J-pop artists don't. Yeah, that's the other thing is that from what I've seen, the baby metal girls are kind of low key, like a high tier J-pop performers. They all sing live. As far as I can tell, the main one definitely does. But the two younger backup singers, I've seen them sing live if they don't constantly sing live, and then they're dancing as they're singing live and pulling it all off. So I mean, it's So this is a wildly controversial group usually for people who read websites like ours and things like that. So if you wanted an update on this artist that you either love or you hate, we're kind of not sure where they're gonna end up, because it's like if you were loving their more recent stuff, you're probably not super sure which direction they're gonna take now. If you loved their first album, which was like the crazy, kawaii metal gimmick, you may have just stopped. You may not even be aware of the second album even coming out based on how they promoted it. I know that the music video for Distortion is they're trying to do some sort of thing where there's like these 7 beings, and it's supposed to be this whole presentation, and they look like real life anime characters. But the problem is that when they announced it, like everybody thought they were adding like new members to Baby Metal to make it total out to 7 people. When they were just trying to make a story. So it's like, it's not translating properly to the international community exactly what's happening with a lot of things with them. So, but the song is interesting. We'll see, I guess. Any final thoughts on Baby Metal, Winona? No. This is okay.
No, I'm all right. Sorry, I had to unmute. It took me a minute.
No, it's all.
Send Jeff a message.
It's all good. I'll stop triggering you now.
Just you already know. Oh, crap, let's make it. You already know how I feel. Why, Jeff?
because we need to hear we need to hear a dissenting opinion. You know,
need to hear roasting.
Yeah, I think there's value in that. You know, I'm pretty much I'm like a fence rider on this one, to be completely honest. But
I literally don't even roast things. Like, I don't roast where it can be written. I roast where it can be spoken. But then I have to remember that YouTube keeps the videos up here forever. So you always have a recording of me roasting things.
Yeah, but we're 20 minutes.
I try not to get it recorded. I know we're 20 minutes in, so nobody's gonna see it. But like, still, got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the middle in terms of like I enjoy their music, but it's like it's in terms of where they fall in the metal spectrum. I'm just like I'm not entirely convinced one way or another, to be completely honest. Especially when like the interpretation has been from like the mainstream like websites and stuff has been either we love Baby Metal or Baby Metal is pop garbage, and it's just like so far one way or another. I'm just not. I don't know. I just know I like some of their stuff, and I don't like some of their stuff.
So like, I'm not convinced either, because like they just keep dancing that line, but I'm just like, nah, man, it's not working for me. Because like, I listen to metal to get angry, not even to get angry. I guess it's angry for me. I let it be angry for me at the world, so I just listen to it and just, like, what's it called, simmer in all my angry juices, whatever. And then when you got pop going in the background, it just ruins it for me. I can't. Like, I can listen to pop music separately, but it's whatever.
What about the Unite disco song you were listening to the other day?
Okay, no, that's different, okay? That reminds me of Motown.
That reminds you of Motown?
Motown, yeah. Like, I listen to Bradio because that reminds me of Motown. That's literally Motown. They're totally influenced by, like, black, different Motown artists like Michael Jackson. He's not Motown. But
yeah. Well, to be fair, that's also a rock band.
Like that.
I think the issue with the pop is that it's like with the metal. I don't know a ton of pop metal off the top.
It would not. It just doesn't. Pop rock is one thing because like rock is just soft enough and has clean. Everything's clean when you get into just straight up rock. But when you're in metal, everything's so distorted, and then pop is so clean cut, and it's not. It's opposites that just don't belong together.
Yeah. I've heard a few interesting attempts. I've heard party metal. Party metal is now a genre, by the way. It's not just an Attila thing. It's I don't know.
So Bryn said Motown. Yeah, Motown Records. Like, let me think. Or anything that sounds like Motown. Motown Records is in Detroit, and that they kind of set the bar for a lot of old R&B music and disco music and stuff like that. So you have like the guys who made My Girl. I cannot remember their name. Earth, Wind and Fire, similar to that. Everything akin to that. All those black boy bands, basically. It sounds terrible. But like those group bands at that time that were super popular then, that I listened to a lot of those. And then like Nat King Cole, stuff like that. I'm all over the spectrum. So yeah.
Attila are just the cringiest band ever.
Motown is one word. Funk stuff.
Yeah. So I think my final thoughts on it. The only final thoughts I'll have, it's something I think everyone can kind of maybe get something out of, is just looking at distortion. I'm not entirely sure that baby metal is going to continue to like just be on this upward mobility of like just
too distorted for my taste,
of rising in popularity. I think it is too Japanese for them to keep their international popularity status, if I'm being completely honest. So you may just see baby metal kind of fall out of the spotlight unless they kind of, blow some people's minds with the like anything later, anything that comes out after this. So I did want to also add that we had said on previous streams that we are going to be covering baby metal in the near future, just on our website. I also wanted to add a clarifying statement to that. So for those of you who didn't know, we do cover some J-rock and J-metal as well.
We're trying our best. It's a hard transition.
Yeah, kind of relevant. Whatever's relevant, whatever we feel like is relevant to our readers at this point is kind of where we're at.
Whatever we deem worthy.
Yeah, I did want to say that the line is getting drawn at baby metal. Because kawaii metal...
He does not want to touch Lady Baby. Jeff doesn't want to touch Lady Baby at all.
Basically, people are floating out the idea that kawaii metal is a genre and stuff like that. And I'm not...
I mean, it's not a genre we want to get into, though.
I'm not convinced, one, and even two, I'm not particularly interested. I don't think our readers are interested beyond seeing what the one that started it is up to. And I'm not impressed by the music. So just because of that,
Jeff doesn't like the music. Jeff is trying not to roast. We got to get Jeff to roast more.
Yeah, it was unique and interesting when one group did it. I don't see this being a... Yeah, anyway, it falls outside of like the sphere of interest of our audience and the sphere of relevance for the kind of music that we make. So if you see baby metal come up on our website, it's just that. It's just that. Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah, it's not me. Watch us be low staffed at one point, and like we have a crisis moment, and you have to put up a baby metal article.
Nope, it'll never be me.
I'll let you.
If we're low staff, it's all you, buddy.
Oh, okay.
If it is me, I'm not even gonna say how they'll know it's me, because it's not. My name's not gonna be on it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna move on before the chat melts, because this is their kryptonite. Apparently, this is baby metal.
My roasts.
Just baby metal in general. So I'll keep.
No way, I forgot. They live for my roasts. They hate baby metal. There you go. They're with me on this.
I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, you're what just keeping them going.
I froze looking up. I can see it.
Yeah. This is interesting. All right, I just activated you again. You know what? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can rearrange our windows a little bit.
Okay. So I'm gonna do studies. I'm studying while I'm here.
By the way, chat, we do have a chat question this stream if you want to leave it in, which is what is your favorite J-rock release of 2018. So if you didn't have anything to add so far in the chat, feel free to add that. Okay. Yeah, something weird's going on with Skype, but I feel like if I keep an eye on it, keep it in the foreground, it should be okay. So, all right, let's move on. We're talking about Crossfaith. So
I'm ready for this.
Yeah. So, in terms of 2018, Crossfaith's been pretty interesting. And by interesting, I mean controversial.
Ooh, that's what we mean.
So maybe we'll even throw back an extra month. So back into, or 2 months or whenever that was. So like back into November, December time, where they put out this awesome single, awesome in my opinion, called Freedom. Where they had, a collaboration. The title track was a collaboration with Rory Reynolds, who is the vocalist of the UK band Enter Shikari, which for those of you who don't know, they are generally credited with inventing electronicore as a genre, which is usually the genre that Crossfaith goes under, which is like metalcore plus electronic music. I see a lot of people using it pretty loosely, so they might call just a regular metal band with electronic music that kind of a thing. So basically the ultimate seal of approval for electronic or band, and that single was very interesting just in general. I thought Freedom, the song itself, was fantastic. Fantastic kind of experimentation that I was wanting to see more of, and the B-sides were solid too. There's a lot of range in one single or one EP. Then we had Wipeout, which came out in January. And anyone who was listening to our VKH Breakdown podcast at the time knows that this one really threw me and Winona for a loop. And it was very...
Motionless and white of them.
Almost not even that. Like, I wrote a review for the single, and I was just really... for the EP... I keep calling it a single... They call it an EP, but it's a single length.
In America, it's a single. In Japan, it's an EP.
Okay.
And it's only a single in Japan if there's literally 2 songs on there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, cool.
Yeah, EPs have like 3 or more.
All right. So, as for Wipeout itself, like the title track, the music video track, it's decent. It's decent, interesting kind of experimentation. My main point is that it sounds more like electronic rock than like their normal metal sound. And for those of you who don't know, like electronic rock is it's a genre of rock music that is basically DJs, who have more of a rock music sensibility to them. They will create rock music electronically just using a program, so it'll be electronic guitars, it'll be electronic drums, it'll be, everything, almost everything is electronic. Maybe they introduce some they have some guitarists come in and do like, electric guitar recordings and stuff. But what it results in is like this really like hyper produced, like slick, EDM style to an otherwise rock music song. And then a lot of them also mix in a lot of pop and electronic music in general. But it's basically like if a DJ did rock music, as opposed to what people who follow the kind of music that we cover are used to, which is if a metal band played around with EDM, it's like coming at it from the other side. So, and my point was that the Crossfade, that Wipeout sounded so produced at this point that it sounded like the DJs that make rock music. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I would imagine like a lot of people would argue it's a bad thing. I was okay with the song. I just definitely didn't want to see it be a permanent direction for them. That's just the A side though. The B sides I think were much less impressive. And Winona, I think that's, if you want to jump in and speak about the one that sounds exactly like a Motionless in White song.
Was that In Flames or something? I forgot the name of it already. I really don't listen to that single that much because I was just like, like it hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
But Wipeout, like it sounded like, what did we say? It sounded like a Blue Dolly song, right?
Oh yeah, there's a artist called Blue Stolly. That's an example of an electric. Blue
Stolly.
Yeah, it's blue.
Exactly like that.
It's blue, and then Stahli is the last name. But if you look up my review for Wipeout by Crossfaith on VKH Press, he
has a link on that.
Yeah, I literally compared there's a song he has that I compared it to. I embedded them both in there. As for the one that sounded like Motionless in White, it was Vermilion Gold.
Oh yeah, what song by Motionless did we say was something about selling drugs?
Everybody Sells Cocaine.
Everybody Sells Cocaine. I always call it the drug song. I don't know why. Yeah. I love that song, but like Yeah, Vermilion Gold sounds eerily like everybody sells cocaine.
Yeah,
And
which is problematic
I
for
think we had
crossfade.
deducted that it was because of the producer, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a Western
Yeah.
producer.
No, yeah, and they like said, "Oh yeah, like you do like electronic metal or metalcore, you must be motionless in white," and just threw everybody into that type.
Yeah, all of the
So,
songs were, I think, they were all produced in the States. So
mm,
that's, they were
yeah.
playing around with that. So this is kind of old news for anyone who's been following us for a while. So we won't harp on this one too much. But what we did want to talk about is the single that they did just recently put out, which is called
Hmm.
"The Perfect Nightmare."
Well,
And you want to talk about a 180?
Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, it terrified me though. First of all,
Oh yeah,
that
the
music
lyric
video is
video.
creepy as heck, and then the lyrics are just like they say they're the perfect nightmare, but then like towards after you get through the first half of it, they start calling themselves Perfect One and God, and I was like, where are you going with this? And then I just figured that they're just calling themselves Lucifer. So yeah, that music video is creepy as heck though, because like it's kind of a lyric video, right? Because they show the lyrics throughout, except for like certain points, and it's like 3D, it's 3D animation at certain points of it too, and it's really impressive, but just fucking creepy.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it was just so surprising because it was not only did they go back
Great
to
song.
being heavy, they went back to being like raw and like mildly,
Mm-hmm.
just way less produced. It almost sounds like their very first album, but like with some 2018, experimentation thrown in there and stuff. Like it's very metalcore, and it's very. It's just nothing was done to like hold back the roughness and the heaviness of it, and the
It's
the
just
lyrics are
beautiful.
solid. He's got like a hook in there where they're like pray for your God and stuff. It's
Yeah,
like it's
basically pray for me. Lol.
yeah, it was solid. It was really impressive. It's just like
Yeah,
this band just keeps zigzagging all over the place, so
they're a fun band to follow.
they're really
It's
fun.
a roller coaster of songs.
They made us nervous with that last single, though, I will say.
A few bands have done this to us before, and we're always just like, well, you and like three other bands have also done this. Is this the future of J-Rock? And then they turn it around and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was very
I'm
pleasantly
hurting.
surprised to see such a heel turn like that. They must have
Dying.
they must have like I don't know. I'm starting to think they just get sick of their own sound really quickly. But like not their own sound in terms of like the general style of it. They just like the general
Hmm.
levels and like of like there's like our last song we did had like a lot of it was way on the produced electronic side, but I'm bored of that. Let's go way heavy this time, and then it's like it just swings back and forth. But Brent says this might just be me, but does anyone else hate English speaking bands because the lyrics make me cringe?
Mm,
I feel you.
I
I
think
feel
only
you.
certain bands, though, when they just get started,
Yeah, it
Because, like,
depends
when
on what
they've
the
been
cringe
speaking
is.
English,
You
yeah, when
know.
they've been speaking English, the lyrics are usually pretty solid. Like, Cold Rain makes pretty solid lyrics
Yeah, Crossfade's gotten
because of
pretty decent
David.
too. Um,
Yeah.
I would also
But then
say
when Underworld came out from Vamp, so that was pretty cringy, not gonna lie. Pretty
oh,
cringe
the
lyrics.
truth finally comes out. There it is.
No, I never said that those were great lyrics.
Yeah, but you
I was
never
like,
said they
they're
were cringy
trying.
either.
They're a
There were a
little
few times
cringe.
I was trying to drag it out of you, but just like,
No, some of them were good. Like they had great like one or two liners in some of the lyrics, but I think the song that really tripped me up was In This Hell with how some of the lyrics are. Because like that second half of the song, I get it after reading the lyrics, I understand it, but like it didn't fit with what the story was. Because like he's basically like Hyde was talking about war, and then he juxtaposes war to like living in a digital world and how everyone's looking at their phones and social media and stuff like that. Now it's just like that doesn't fit. So yeah, that was
chat's referencing that Black Pig Dex Core lyric video.
Yeah.
It's just really awkward.
Yeah. Well, people are trying. More power to them for trying. Just practice a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna discourage them from trying to learn the language and improve themselves.
Yeah,
They just gotta learn. They gotta practice.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like I speak a second language. Yeah, I used to speak Spanish, and I did just move to Miami. So, like, I will.
To be fair, it's not like I don't understand the hardships of learning a second language.
Yeah.
Japanese is one hell of a language.
Yeah, so... but yeah, so we can go ahead and move on to... What should we move on to next?
The next thing on the list, Jeff.
I mean, we could do that. Do you want to...
Oh, just kidding. I don't know anything about that thing.
Yeah, I just realized I was like, I can talk about it really quick. It's just it's just a band I wanted to bring up. Those
are fireworks. I always have to explain some loud popping sound in the background. They're fireworks. God. I'm in New York. They started celebrating Independence Day a month early, so like they started celebrating it on the 4th, and I've just heard fireworks every night ever since.
glad you clarified. All right, so
always got to clarify.
So the next band I wanted to talk about is a symphonic metal band, and it's called Unlucky Morpheus. Let me get back to my window.
Fix it up.
How's
Make
it looking?
Pretty.
Zoom in a little bit.
Looks dope. Yeah, zoom in.
Okay, a little more. Oh, too far. Okay, I think that's good.
Because there's hecka members.
There's hecka members.
Hecka members.
Yeah, so the vocalist is right. Is this girl right here? So for those of you who aren't familiar, like I said, they're a symphonic metal band. See this right here? This is Jill from Rose Noir, if anybody's familiar.
Hey, Rose Noir is your people, your brother and sister duo.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of Rose Noir, so I was pleasantly surprised. But I had actually just completely stumbled on this band by accident last year. They put out this song called Black Pentagram that is just an absolutely fire symphonic metal song. And the vocalist, she just has these really powerful... just these really powerful, really powerful voice, really powerful vibrato. Jill is obviously very skilled as a violinist, and all the instrumentalists are like next level, at what they do. The composition is just fantastic, and they just came in at the perfect time because there was. They've actually been around for a while. They were a cover band for oh god, I'm blanking. What was that type of game that they were a cover band for, Winona? Do you remember us talking about this?
No.
You don't remember this?
When were we talking about this? We talk all the time, Jeff.
We chatted about this like forever ago.
Yeah, that's even less possibility. Plus, we have like a group messenger where that's probably where you talked about it too, where messages fly by every day and I don't see anything.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. I learned what it was. Remember, it was like a whole subgenre thing in Japan, and basically they've been around for a while doing covers of like this covers of video game music. I'm horribly educated
Blinking.
on this. I'm so sorry. Let me find my notes. They do they basically do Toho arrangements and or arrangements of music from the Toho Project, which is a Japanese doujin video game series that specializes in shoot 'em up video games. And a doujin is, I forget what a doujin is. So it's a video game series. Let me see if chat can save me with anything that I said. Nope. Yeah, I'm on my own here. Sorry, guys. I'm going to put together an artist intro, though, because I remember, obviously, as you can tell, it's a very confusing backstory, because I was like, oh, wow, this is a brand new band. Their first PV just came out in 2016. Like, that's awesome. Why are they so good for being so new? And then they have a discography stretching back, like, almost 10 years. And then you realize they're all covers, and you don't know what their covers are, and stuff like that. So, anyway, long story short, excellent technical melodic metal, symphonic metal, but basically there's been a pretty big drought for that, especially if you like v-kei music lately, just because you've got just the symphonic side of v-kei has kind of been struggling. So I would recommend them, since there is a former member of a v-kei duo in there, and also, there is a you can see some v-kei influences on their guitarist, things like that. So the most notable thing they've done recently is they put out a single called Cadaver / Revedak. And so those were two. It was just the name of the two songs on the single. The crazy thing about that single is. If you go watch the PV, you'll see this. So you have Cadaver, which is like, it's just really badass played, like technical symphonic metal. I'm not sure exactly what you would specifically call it, because there's symphonic elements, but it's just really technical power metal kind of influences as well. But just blazing guitar solos, epic violin back and forth, or epic back and forth between Jill on violin and the guitarists, the two guitarists. All around great song. But the PV they put out for this is twice the length of the song, right? I'm gonna spoil the PV for you guys, by the way. So if you don't want to get spoiled, just don't.
You should just watch this 9-minute PV.
Yeah,
it's actually really
so
great.
It's double.
PV.
So you're confused as to what's going on, because it's twice as it's pretty long for one song, and then at the same time you're noticing there's certain parts that don't seem quite up to sync with the music. But they kind of do, but they kind of aren't. But the majority of it is. So basically, the song ends, or the PV ends, the logo appears and it says Cadaver, and then it zooms out, and then all of a sudden the logo flips around, and it turns out that Cadaver backwards is Revedak, and the song Revedak starts, and basically Revedak was composed as the song Cadaver in reverse. So they composed the same song forwards and backwards, and just they played the same song forwards and backwards. Except this is like Versailles or like Galnerius level complexity with the kind of music that they're playing. So, and it sounds like a completely different song. They actually put up a sheet music version of the PV, so you can kind of see like the notes as they go, by, and it'll scroll from right to left first, and then it'll scroll back the way it came, so you can kind of see like the main parts that make up the song that were just played forwards and backwards. But it's like it's wild, because it's like we're talking about like complex guitar solos and duets, back and forth solos between a guitarist and a violinist, and they just all line up. So yeah, that was pretty mind-blowing, and it was pretty great. And so if you're really struggling in terms of finding good symphonic metal, these guys are great to check out. I think they're going to be big, to be honest. I think they're going to be a really big deal. Were you familiar with this at all, Winona? Did you ever get to check them out?
Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was really, really cool, but that's the only thing that I knew about them. The Cadaver and Revedak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the other single, so they only just recently started making original music, so that's pretty much why nobody's heard of them until recently. So the other song, the first single that they put out was called Black Pentagram, and that song is like, pretty fantastic as well. I think it's that the female vocalist is she really sets herself apart from other female vocalists to a certain extent, just because her voice is just it really packs a punch, you know. And there's plenty of metal bands and rock bands, you know, with female vocalists or whatever. So it's not exactly like a unique concept in Japan at this point, right? But it's just like her in particular just like really stood out to me. It's really strong vibrato, I think. Okay, so we can move on to the next one, which is going to be
Easy.
Easy?
Easy.
All right. So the next band we're going to cover is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Let's grab an image for them.
Easy for you.
Easy for me?
Easy for you.
You don't know that you don't have anything to add on this?
No, not really. Hold up. I'm gonna make myself educated.
Oh, true.
Watch me live study.
All right. Well, okay, yeah, I can jump into it a little bit. So, I don't know how
I haven't heard their latest stuff. Like if it happened in the past like 2 months, I haven't been able to catch up on it.
Okay, you might know one of them then. But let's see what I can find here.
Google searching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas does not help. Somebody broke into somebody's car. But yeah.
Oh, great.
I mean, it's New York. I mean,
it's New York. It's just another.
The other side of the block I'm staying on is the project. So.
Oh God! Don't die, Winona.
For me.
We need you.
I know, right? I walk home at 10 p.m. each night. It's so terrifying.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see what the chat thinks of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas reminds me of when I was a scene kid, and honestly, I don't want to be reminded of that. Someone made some mistakes in their youth. No, I'm just kidding. What else? I don't think I've understood a single word in a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas song. It's probably for the best, to be honest, because I do enjoy their music, but just because of how crazy it is. But if you do look up the lyrics, they are all in English, and it is very cringy English lyrics. So the fact that the vocalist is always auto-tuned to the point where you can't understand his English, and the fact that these rough vocalist is screaming so much that you can't, so hard that you can't understand his English, it's probably for the best. Yeah, so let's get into Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So they had a really interesting what would you call it? I mean, it was an album, right? So they had a really interesting previous album, but what I was stumbling on is like trying to describe how they had changed. So anyone who knows Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas knows that they're like a post-hardcore band mixed with like all the rave electronic crazy music, and then they just like each song is like, you know, at least this is how they started out, is they would have like each song is like 5 different songs smashed into one. And they'll just go from super catchy to super heavy to super dancey to super energetic, you know, just all over the place. In the last few years, they've kind of been like slowing down in their crazy experimentations and things like that. I think, you know, their music started getting picked up like constantly to be used as anime openings, and I think at that point they kind of started just sticking to a little bit more predictable of a formula. So you could kind of tell they were running out of steam. So then this past December they signed with Warner Music Japan, and they put out New Sunrise, and it's drastically different from their past music. It was way less like frenetic and crazy, and way more intensely focused on experimenting with like almost like one thing at a time instead of like everything layered on top of each other like how they usually do. It didn't sound like a blitzkrieg of different sounds. You know, it was interesting. It was like they pulled apart all of the things that they usually throw together in a single song, and then just like carefully organize them side by side throughout a song, and then carefully organize the songs side by side throughout the album. So I thought it was interesting. It was definitely more. It was fresh for them because like their version of like this new album, it was much more mainstream friendly, I think, and so you could tend to get a little. It would be understandable if you got a little suspicious because they did just sign to Warner Music, and so you're like, okay, what's going on here? But if you look at like what's sellout for them, it's kind of what they had started to do for the last few albums, which is just make anime opener music. So we'll just have like a heavy, energetic, or just like a powerful, energetic verses. We'll have the auto-tuned, happy, anthemic anime chorus that they'll use. We'll make sure that the screamer does scream so we don't get shit for it, and then we'll just do that like over and over again. And then we'll have fun in the B-sides and stuff like that. But we got for the singles, got to do that. That's kind of where it was going for a little bit. So I thought it was kind of fresh what they did. Now though, they since then they've I thought it was well, let me say, I thought it was fresh what they did, if not a little. I was a little unsure on like where they were going with it, because like everything I just said, it's like everything I just said is like an opinion and an evaluation of what I'm seeing. And there's always the possibility that it's like, no, they were just like selling out, trying to make more pop rock music, So it's always like when they're experimenting like this in these weird directions that are like flirting with mainstream sounds, it's like you don't know the motivation, so you don't know what's going to come next. But what came next was a single that came out at the beginning of May. It was called Greedy. It had two promotional tracks on it. One was, and the PV for this came out in February, which was is called "Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up." And then the second one was called "Treasure in Your Hands." And the general vibe I get from this single is that they're pretty much back to their normal style of sound. Which is, it came out right at Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up came out right at the end of January. So it was one day off. But they're kind of headed back towards their normal sound of like the frenetic, all the things piled on top of each other, like all the different sounds.
Still sounds poppy to me.
It does?
Yeah, if you look back before they got signed to major, like, when they were indie, it was more wild, I think. And this still sounds cleaned up. Like it's a step in the other direction for them right now. But,
yeah, for sure.
Treasure in Your Hands is like pretty upbeat in my opinion, and I think that I can discern that it's upbeat because of how clean it sounds. But at the same time, it just sounds kind of poppy because it's so upbeat. And then Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up. Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up is similar feeling to me.
Yeah, Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up, I think is a little bit more of a step. So it's like they had like, but it is. That's a good point. I should clarify. It's not like a step back to like the indie days or like, it's more of like there's somewhere in between.
It's in a new direction for them, yeah.
Well, I honestly don't even know how much of a new direction it is. I think they're just kind of moving back away from New Sunrise and back, maybe a little bit past the album before that, somewhere in there, because it's definitely not as crazy and badass as they were like a few albums ago.
It's not.
But it's also not the most derivative of this type of music that I've heard from them.
Yeah, I think that lies in the production, because it sounds like they got Warner convinced finally to do what they kind of want to do, but at the same time they can't do exactly what they want to do, so they're at a happy medium.
Oh, you think that's what's going on?
Sounds like it. I don't know, but they probably, I don't know. That's what it sounds like. Just audioly, that's what it sounds like from listening to the music.
Well, did you enjoy what they did on New Sunrise, or?
Not so much, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Keep the Heat and Fire Yourself Up a lot. Treasure in Your Hands, I like it too, but it's so poppy.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed what they did on New Sunrise, if nothing else. But I'm starting to think it was just because it was something different. Because the two albums before that were like,
Probably.
it was the same thing over and over. And the reason we were also into Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in the beginning is because they were doing these crazy combinations of stuff, and they kept changing. So, but they really started to run out of steam. So, I was happy. I was happy to see something new, but maybe it wasn't the best direction for the band. Maybe that's the shot that was. Maybe that's the decision that was made, or something. I'm honestly not entirely sure how I feel about them in general at the moment. you know, but I was really big into them in the past, so
I think
I don't know.
everyone was.
Well, I guess it's it's a little comforting to know they're back in their normal direction of music, so there's no chance of them going any further in a direction that might completely deconstruct their sound. But the problem is that just taking that one step just puts them back in where they were like a couple of years ago, which was like not particularly that exciting or interesting. So they need to go further. So yeah, I guess that's about the end of that. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I skipped one.
Yeah, that's what threw me off. I was like, it'll be easy. And then you were like, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I was like, for you.
Oh, my bad.
Easy for you.
All right, we're gonna talk about Miyavi now. We're gonna talk about Miyavi while I find the. And yes, I know Miyavi is. We're not putting him in the Visual Kei segment. Just
he's kind of all over the place right now, right? So like,
for the sake of simplicity, I'm putting him in J-Rock in general because he's never said he's not a Visual Kei artist, but he's so different and on his own that we're just putting him out on his own, so we don't spend time.
He's got his own genre. Honestly,
yeah, so we don't spend time in the Visual Kei segment like discussing an artist that is like so different from all the other ones. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, anyway, so these past couple of months, Miyavi's been touring, but while he's been touring, he's also been putting out some new stuff. I remember, he put out... I remember So On It came out this month, and then last month, Long Nights World EP came out, and... May, he put out So On It, right? And then April was Long Nights World EP, and I forgot what he put out before that. It was an album. He put out Day 2? Samurai Sessions Volume 2 is what he put out, and he was up against a bunch of different vocalists and producers,
pop artists,
and then up against
rappers.
himself, pop artists and rock stars and rappers, just different genres that he was dabbling in over the course of his career. And some of the songs on that album that really stuck out to me were like the ones with the rock artists, obviously, but also like Kanpai Banzai, that one.
Banzai song.
Yeah, the Banzai song stuck out, and All My Life stuck out to me with Hyde in it, and I forgot the song that had Masato in it, but that was a really good one. And
Bumps in the Night.
Bumps in the Night is really good. I really enjoyed that one. And the one with Verbal, I forgot the name of that one too. But that album was really impressive because he continued to push himself forward as a DJ and guitarist, but in keeping his guitar with him as much as possible. He replaced several of the tracks that would have otherwise been samples from electronic music and used his guitar instead. And it makes it sound more organic, but it's so opposite in the environment that it's placed in because it's such an artificial, mechanical sounding song, and then you have this natural sounding guitar in there, and it makes it sound more interesting. Like, not quite right, but it still sounds really good. And he does more of that with what he had put out following that, which was Long Nights EP World Mix, where he's working with, I forgot the name of the rapper, but she's rapping in her native language because she's a refugee, and she's rapping in Farsi. And since World Nights had already come out, Long Nights come out already in English, Big
It's
excited to that. And it was
Sonita.
beautiful. Sonita, yes. I was thinking Sony, but I didn't think about anything else, which is a problem. Sunita, yeah, her. And when you hear her rapping in her native language, it's so much more heartfelt because it's so deep, and it's about feelings that refugee children have when they have to leave their country, or anyone who's a refugee when they have to leave their country at times of war or political unrest and stuff like that. And when you understand those lyrics already and you hear it in her native language, it's so much more impressive. And then the B-side to that single was In Crowd, and I fuck with that song so hard. I fucking love that song. The lyrics to it are great, and this is where Miyavi's working with Sean Bowe. And the lyrics are like, I still don't fuck with the In Crowd, and I'm like, that's me as a song.
Yeah,
and,
I was down. I was really down with that. Like he figured something out there with the rock, and he cracked a new code. Like,
yeah, he did, and I think that's because of how much he'd been collaborating with rappers up until then. Because of how much he's doing, and all the social media accounts I follow on my Twitter and stuff. I see him come up on like 88 Rising a lot, and then I see him come up on like different liked videos and retweets from other artists and stuff and people in general who pop up on my feed. And he worked with 88 Rising several times for like Havana, but then he also worked with them to do freestyle with some new young rappers. And when I saw those, I think he's just too far ahead of the game for them because they're not ready for whatever he's laying down right now.
Oh, yeah, the rappers that they got for him to do freestyle with. The freestyle was not a freestyle. It was some sort of spoken word bullshit.
Stories.
Yeah,
yeah, they couldn't freestyle for shit. Like, they aren't ready for it. But he's like ready to work with like Childish Gambino or Chance the Rapper, and I can tell he's like all the work he's been putting out. He's trying to get to them and hit whatever level of popularity he hit when he first came here for Unbroken. But,
I've decided
he's trying to make himself go viral, but
I've decided I want Miyavi versus Joyner Lucas.
Yes, that would be dope. Oh man, that would be amazing. Miyavi versus Tech Nine would be so interesting, bro.
Oh, good point. Good point. The chopper versus the slapper.
Yes, that would be amazing. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so In Crowd came out, and he'd been doing all his things while on tour, which is crazy because you see him putting up all these cover songs. Like when This Is America came out, he put out his cover song like a day later. So that means he'd been recording stuff the moment that he hears it and he likes it and puts it out. So he did it while he was on tour, and I was just like, what the fuck? So he's like working harder than everyone right now, which is crazy. But then So On It came out in May, and I also freaking love that song. That track is amazing. That's the only track on the single. It's an actual single, but So On It is, I love it. It's actually really good.
I wasn't into that one, actually. Not
really?
at all. Yeah.
I don't know. I like it a lot.
When I listen to his music now, I try and, just for the sake of discussing like his ability to go into the pop scene with his rock instrumentation, I do try and listen to it fairly ruthlessly because I'm friends with a lot of people down here who listen to electronic music and listen to pop music and stuff, so I know how they think. And for me, it was just the squeaky guitar is just like a huge deal breaker for people that he would be wanting to attract. Like the reason In Crowd worked was because he that distortion, it works really well when it's like a lower sound. Like, it works really well. And then like if you go up high for a little bit, it sounds good, but like the squeaky like thing that he does to replace like a bass drop, it's too grating. I think he needs
an acoustic guitar because he still works with. It's like working with a guitar that records electronically, and it's not.
Well, especially because we're at a point in the mainstream electronic music where like all the sludgy trap beats are like the huge thing right now. Like all this like chill, kind of stuff. It's like it's just way too grating, I think. But
you're used to a deeper sound. Well, he's just trying to break the mold, my guy. Trying to think.
Yeah, just do it with In Crowd. Break the mold with In Crowd. Just go back to that. Break the mold that way.
Well, I'm also considering the fact that he's like putting out new singles every month. Now it's June, so something's gonna happen. But He's been putting out a new single every month, so he's like trying a lot of things in a short amount of time.
Yeah,
and that's something that is truly artistic. Like he's just an artist. He's not a musician. He is an artist.
He's going the SoundCloud artist route right now. You know, just
he's
throwing
doing
him out there, seeing what sticks.
Nah, he's doing a concentration right now, and his concentration is on fusing his guitar with electronic things as much as possible without losing his guitar in the whole mess of it. That's how I view it.
Yeah, but
singing.
I do kind of see it as like the SoundCloud style, which is that you just put out like your current work in progress. You stop and you're like, this is what I got so far. Make it a song, put it out there. I'll keep working, see what the feedback is, and then you should see the progression. And Miyavi kind of always has been like that, you know. Anyway. But now it's reduced down to that level of quickness where it's like every 3 months.
Yeah. So. Because he made his life music. Because I think what happened was when he came to America, like he became super popular, right? But he was only super popular because he was working with Angelina Jolie, and he was otherwise a nobody in the States. So everyone was surprised that she handpicked this guy who's big in Japan but not known here at all, and he's a musician, and it's the first time he's acting in a Hollywood film of this caliber ever. And he's probably let that go to his head for the first year or two, moved to America, realized that he's nobody here, he's just a small-time actor, and he probably really wants to make it big as a musician. So he's trying his best with his music right now, and he just keeps working on the music more and more, because you see him less and less in films these days, but otherwise I think he's like just keeping up his acting career just so he can have it on his resume and still be considered, because like, you know, it's a good side job. But yeah, I think that makes sense, that he's just really working as a musician because he really wants to be up there in the top 40 and be recognized here as he is in Japan. Otherwise, music is life for him.
Yeah. So let's see. Bryn's throwing out some
making the chat hate him.
No, they're agreeing with them. I'm just saying he's making some.
I just see things.
He's making some interesting points. He's like, I know my opinion is very unpopular, but he should just reunite Do the Courts. We may be a little too late for that.
It's pretty late.
But you know, there's people in here. I like Emily right after that said, like, your opinions are popular. Trust me, you know. Yeah, it is, because it's like in this weird state where it's like he's not really visual kei, but we can't call him. We can't say he's not visual kei because he's never gone on record saying it. Like, when I say we, I mean we at VKH. So if people
I don't even think of it as music, just art.
Yeah. So like if people want to, I did see people in the chat like, no, he's not visual kei, he's not visual kei. Like, that's fine. It's just from us, like, it'll be somewhere in the gray middle area until I find something more, or he actively says no more visual kei. Because when artists,
then we'll just keep covering him like we cover vamps.
Yeah, because when artists aren't visual kei, they're really not visual kei. Like, they're really like vocal about the fact. Like, Hyde is very much not visual kei because he says it all the time.
Hates being called visual kei because his influences. No, like, they're very specific about it because their influences don't come from visual kei bands. Their influences come from glam metal bands, which is like, it's like they're influenced by glam metal bands from Japan. They're influenced by glam metal bands from the place that glam metal came from in America. So
also we had a super chat. Let me, while we're looking at the
Lark
chat.
Is not VK. Lark and CL is not VK. Sorry.
Gula donated $10 to say, get you someone who hypes you up like Jeff hypes up Unlucky Morpheus.
Oh my god. Wait. Asuka put in chat, Lark and CL is VK. Change my mind.
We should do a Change My Mind. Can we do a Change My Mind stream?
We should. Oh my god.
You could make a whole bunch, and I could put them up on the, like how I've got it up on the stream here, you know, and we could flip through
graphics.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
When I'm not dying at my internship right now.
Yeah, or if you like teach me how to, I can do it for you.
No, I'm not teaching you. It's gonna take too much time. It takes too much time, Jeff. You're gonna die.
We can just do
I'll
one
be
generic.
I'll get so mad at you for you picking like Comic Sans as a font, and I'll be like, Jeff, Comic Sans is a terrible font. Or you'll
Why
choose
would I?
Arial.
Don't put that lie out there. I know damn well that you never pick Comic Sans as a font. Come on.
Or you choose Arial as a font, and then I have to explain to you why Arial is a shit font.
Yeah, and then I have to explain to you that... Chat, what's your thoughts on Arial versus Helvetica?
Bitch.
Yeah.
Helvetica was the original font, and Arial is Microsoft's cheap copy of it.
This sounds like an opinion more than a fact. I'm just saying.
It's a fact.
Is it a fact? It's a real fact? So if I go ask anybody, any of your fellow designers...
Yeah. No, yeah, they'll totally agree, because Helvetica came out first, and Arial couldn't afford the rights for... I mean, Microsoft couldn't afford the rights for Helvetica, so they got Arial made instead.
Okay. Well, we have to move on before this becomes a graphic design UX stream, and everyone's like, what the fuck?
Comic Sans. Yeah. It was all right. I like Times New Roman. They're talking about fonts. It's all good. Anyway, we'll move on.
I'm with you on the Times New Roman thing. Can't go wrong with that guy.
Oh, no. Why not choose Georgia?
Because
Georgia didn't do any wrong.
Because
Georgia
because everybody used Times New Roman.
Times New Roman is such a default font that it's kind of obvious.
Yes, so everybody used it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if a designer uses it, it's shit.
Well... I mean,
I'm not a default fonts.
Maybe I can just put not a designer as my as a
little thing at the bottom, be like created by not a designer.
Yeah, exactly. That should work. That should work fine.
I'm making the graphics, guys. I don't trust Jeff.
At this point, I just do it to mess with you. I'm gonna send you fake potential graphics.
Jeff is a bad friend, guys. Jeff.
I have to get back at your roasting. I have to get back at your hurtful roasting one way or another.
Good luck.
So I just make you more likely to roast me. It's a very effective strategy.
Just start actually publicly roasting you. Like on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah. That'll be our...
I'll be publicly savage.
We're going to start VKH drama. No, I'm just kidding.
Savage.
VKH savage, yeah. All right, so as you can see on the screen, next topic is Man with a Mission. Next artist.
Yes.
Man, so like it's really hard to describe this band at this point.
Yeah.
It's like if the Red Hot Chili Peppers tried to do pop rock music, I guess. And none of that's meant like insultingly, by the way. Like it's pretty interesting the stuff they do generally. But like they have they have a rapper, they have a guitarist who sings the cleans, I believe, and they have a DJ, and then all the other rock band instrument members, and they do all kinds of pop rock, alt rock kind of music. I think the one that really stuck out to me prior to the stuff they did this year was Dead End in Tokyo, because it reminded me so much of a Panic at the Disco song from Panic at the Disco's last album. That was Victorious, was one of the singles, and it reminded me of like the Japanese version of that. But it was also done very, that also kind of signaled that they were like going from like, that song and then like Dog Days, which had like kind of a Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of feel to it. I get really hesitant when I use that to describe them, but that's like what comes to mind. Like, but then it was like all like this slick like pop rock or alt rock kind of catchy music at the same time. So those two together, they kind of woke me up to the fact that it's like, okay, these guys are like starting to spin off into like some more like experimental directions, but like experimenting with pop and stuff like that a lot more, flirting with the mainstream in jazzy ways, in interesting ways. I've never listened to them, but Red Hot Chili Peppers trying to do pop is a sign to stay the fuck away. No, they're pretty good. I like them. This year was pretty weird though.
They just fun fact, they did a theme song for Max, what's it called? That movie Fury Road. I forgot what the name of that.
Mad Max.
Mad Max Fury Road Japanese version. They did a theme for that.
Yeah. One of the themes, they did a theme for an anime, and it was for a single called Database, and that song was epic. Like, I love that song.
Yeah, their theme songs are really, really good.
Yeah, like they've had some bangers. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about recently and overall. You know, they've definitely had some bangers, some amazing like songs that really just get stuck in your head, get you hooked, get you hyped. This year was very interesting though, because they did like take it to the next level in terms of the different kinds of musical directions they wanted to do. They had a song called Freak It with Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, which I didn't see coming.
That was really interesting.
Yeah,
I saw it.
I'm not sure if it was... I mean, it was catchy, it was fine, but I'm just not sure if it was like thoroughly integrated enough. Like their sound, like Man with a Mission sound and Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra sound. It's just kind of a little basic, you know? I don't know, in terms of like how they crossed over with each other. Yeah, are you kind of in the same ballpark, Winona? Or like, what did you think about that one?
Yeah, I felt the same, because like Tokyo Ska Orchestra, that's what it is, right? Am I reading it right? Yeah, they're coming from a different genre of music, and it's just not working. Because Man with a Mission has a harder sound than they do, obviously, but like it was a good idea. It was a good idea in the sense of having two big names collaborate, but I don't know if this was fleshed out enough when they started writing the music together. That's
a good way to describe it. Not quite fleshed out.
Yeah,
so, you know, you can take that or leave that for what it is. Then the next two singles that they had come out, and I think that'll have us up to date, is Take Me Under and Winding Road. I believe Take Me Under was a little bit... Winding Road was the lighter of the two. But they were kind of in the general ballpark of mixing the pop and the EDM a little bit with the subtly with like the the rock music, just really strong alt rock vibes. But honestly, I get these last two singles really reminded me of like Avicii more than anything. Like Avicii's like latest sound. For those of you who don't know, Avicii was a really popular DJ. He actually recently passed away, but his latest his biggest song, his breakout song was called Levels. If you've heard his music, I guarantee you. I'll just put you that way. Was a very popular EDM DJ, but his later stuff was like Hey Brother and My Father Told Me and stuff like that. It was getting almost more into like some country / kind of rockish kind of vocals and like attitudes and stuff like that. It was just moving away from like purely electronic and starting to sound more like organic and stuff. Bryn makes a good point. If you've ever been to a club, you've heard of Avicii. And Man with a Mission kind of sounds like they're coming at it from the opposite direction. That it's like they're lessening the intensity of their rock sound, but at the same time trying not to over incorporate like rock music or over incorporate like the pop sounds and the electronic sounds into their music. because that's not really their style when they do this. They don't do the thing like where Crossfaith does, where Crossfaith just kind of rocked it and was like, you know what, breakdowns and bass drops, fuck you. That was pretty much like how they did it. That's how they started. And then they've kind of been known for that, and then slowly gotten like a little more subtle about it. But Man with a Mission's always been like that the DJ's in the background and he's being more subtle about things, and it's not like all about the wub wubs and the
Wub, dub, dub.
yeah, like
Wubba lubba dub dub.
yeah. So it kind of feels like a yeah, I say mainstream friendly sometimes, but like in this case, I feel really more like it's like a top 40 friendly. Or like a alt rock station friendly kind of songs. It's interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it because generally I'm not like particularly psyched about that kind of music.
I'm dying right now.
Man with a Mission's usually pretty hit or miss with me in terms of if I'm likely to like listen to a song they put out on the regular. Like I was into Dead End in Tokyo, and I was super into Dog Days. But then there were like some songs that came out afterwards, like Hero or and maybe these and probably these singles too, that just don't really like do it for me. It's not like I can point out like what's wrong with it. It's not like interesting enough for me. I don't know. The other thing is I'm around like top 40 music all the time. I live in one of the capitals. Like I just moved to one of the capitals of T40 music and EDM music and stuff like that. So it's like I like bands that experiment with it because they're usually doing a fresh spin on it, not just sounding like the artists that originated the pop music or the EDM music. So if they sound too similar, I'm a little bit like I lose interest because I lose interest in the artists that started it sometimes.
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes.
It's been an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance we could do a part 2?
Part 2?
Yeah, of this, because I might have to go soon.
I mean, I don't know when I'd be able to, so... I told you over Messenger, though, if you need to go, we can just, like, cover all the stuff. We could cover Visual Kei right now if you want, and then you can piece, and I can go through the rest of them.
I know some Radwimps right now. I have words on Radwimps right now.
Okay, do you want to do Radwimps and then do the Visual Kei part, and then you can piece, and I'll get through, as many of these other ones as I can make it through. Because I do have like a whole list of requests from people towards the end that I did want to get to.
That.
I'm not going to be able to make it through all of them, obviously, but I was going to get to some of the ones that are the easiest to do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, or you can talk about Radwimps.
So this year, Radwimps put out 3 new songs that I was able to notice. Mountaintop, Shape of Miracle, and Kusol. And Mountaintop and Shape of Miracle, well, these 3 songs, they're all ballads. They're like super soft. I know that Radwimps usually does like, upbeat, kind of pop rocky kind of sound, so it's hard to tell what is a ballad for them, but the way that they wrote these songs, it's like they're so beautiful. Mountaintop and Shape of Miracle are all in English, so when you're watching it, the lyrics in Japanese are like running along the side, and they're music videos. But when they had put out Mountaintop, which is a theme song for a movie called Legend of Demon Cat, they took clips from the movie and cut them together to become a music video. And as I was watching it, I was like, wow, I really want to look at this movie. But the song itself is really, really good. For Shape of Miracle, it's more abstracted. The music video is like different clips of flowers blooming and stuff like that. And the song is just like it's so much deeper than I think any of their other ballads, because it feels like they've been trying to like expand themselves more as a softer band as opposed to other rock bands who try to like go heavier or go more electronic. Like they went way more organic, went back to like their roots or classical roots or whatever, and like incorporated more pianos and things like that. And with Shape of Miracle, the vocalist, his vocal range is kind of amazing, and like their English is like pretty good, considering that those two songs are all in English. So I definitely recommend that people check that out. And Kuso, that's all in Japanese. The music video has cuts of buildings, and Kuso translates to like empty window, and it's also really nice. But even though these are 3 ballads, they're all very different. But it's hard to say how they're different because they're all ballads. But I think the best ballad of those 3 is Shape of Miracle. That one impressed me the most.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the last one I heard by them was the that really big breakout song they did for that anime movie. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Kimi no Nanha. Okay, well.
What? What are you trying to say, Japanese, Jeff?
It was Kimi no Nanha. Let me look up Rad
Kimi no
Voices.
Nawa.
Yeah. That may have been the name of the.
I
don't know if that was the name of the movie or the.
That's the name of the movie. Kimi no Nawa. Yeah, that was. I saw that movie.
Okay.
Made me cry. Don't know about anybody else, but I cried.
Yeah, I had. I had listened. Yeah, it was called Zen. Oh God, Zen Say. Yeah. I thought there was more to this title than that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I unfortunately am not caught up on them, but yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me check chat one more time. Let's see.
I haven't seen it yet. No spoils. Got you.
I'm pretty sure the guy from Radwimps is fully bilingual. I want to say he has an English language side project too. Interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, let me find what image should I put up for Visual Kei, just in general, because we're going to talk about Visual Kei as a whole.
Well, let's see. What's the first thing that comes up when you Google Visual Kei?
Okay, we'll just do that.
What does the world see when you look up Visual Kei?
They see Versailles.
Versailles. That's probably because of Billboard. No, it's because of Visual Kei Wikia, but also because of Billboard. Billboard wrote an article on Versailles once.
That's true. I'm just gonna put up our
intro to Visual Kei.
Yeah, our crash course to Visual Kei.
All right.
And then we'll talk about specific artists at certain points. I think we can get into it. At that
just
point.
Visual Kei as a whole, it's questionable. It's doing all right. It's doing decent. It's very much alive. Everyone's saying yes, Versailles. Somebody said Bryn said if it's Yo-Yo, I will commit Sudoku.
You guys are mean. Yeah. By the way, if you guys didn't know, we did write a Visual Kei crash course article that was based off of a 7-hour stream that I did, that Winona and I did along with Shiro, who's our news writer.
News artist.
Our news artist, our news article writerist. So if you have friends that you've been having trouble like introducing to Visual Kei, or helping them like get hooked on, this would be a good thing to check out. But I'm just gonna put this up here because Winona did a great job styling it, and there's like multiple bands in it, close enough. Yeah. So
number of bands.
Yeah, I would say that state of Visual Kei is pretty interesting right now. I think a lot of the scene is moving out of a like this era where they were stuck in like just it's rehashing any trend that came out to death, you know. Maybe that was more of a in the indie scene or something like that, but that was just kind of a vibe that I really picked up, is that like, you know, any trend that happened, like it had to be done a lot. And I'm not, and I know Shola had picked up had mentioned that when we did the stream with him. So like I'm seeing less of that and more of like some. I'm seeing more originality now. So I think we're like about to like go back to the way it was like 5 years ago, where people were just getting really interesting with their experimentations and stuff. You've got the Osharike bands that are now experimenting with heavy music. Like Rave and Acme, if you want to consider them Osharike. That's pretty. That's pretty fucking. I didn't expect that. Dimlin's like PV that they just put out like for promoting their upcoming concept album. That Vanitas song is fucking amazing. Like
it's a total 180.
I did the top 10 anime redemptions. Like I couldn't believe that shit. Like we were so worried about them. Like we were so uncertain about them, just from their drummer Issei leaving. And because he was pretty much, as far as we could tell, he was the heart and soul of the band. Because Issei was, the drummer of DID, and so much of Dimlim seems to be a continuation of DID. And yet he leaves, and then the first song that we hear from them that I think we can confidently say is like has nothing to do with Issei. It sounds completely. So it sounds more like DID like experimentation than like a lot of their other stuff even did. I was really impressed. The vocalist cleans improved drastically. Man. So that like that. So certain things like that are coming out there, really blowing my mind. Crazier and crazier levels of. I don't know what you would call it, of like song compositions are sort of arising from certain bands. You've got Reiten Ichigram no Gosan, who's kind of caught fire. So they're doing, and the stuff they're doing is very interesting. It's like a more bizarre version of it's like an even more bizarre version of like some of the stuff that bands like maybe like Pentagon had started playing with in terms of like getting unique and playing fast and loose with their song structures and stuff. And so Reiten Ichigram no Gosan's got an album coming out that I'm kind of curious about, like what that's going to sound like. Rain, who is a band that has really grown on me over time, has they've just put out, or they're about to release 2 singles on the same day, but they have the full PVs for both of the lead tracks out, and their experimentation has has gotten much more ambitious, but the music has gotten so great, like so much better. I'd always said that if like Rain has always been a little bit hit or miss for me. Like they're kind of fun to listen to, but I never thought it was anything particularly interesting until about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. But the one thing about Rain that has like been fairly consistent up, especially in recent years, is that their looks are usually really spot on, like really good style and stuff. So I had always said that if Rain's sound ever got to the point where they sounded as good as they looked, they would be like one of the biggest bands in Visual Kei, So they're and so they're definitely getting there. So I think we're finally getting to the point where you're getting like some 2018 style, some modern day style experimentation, as opposed to like the last few years, which have been we're experimenting, but really it's just mixing electronic music and rock music again for the 3rd year in a row, which, to be fair, is still more experimental than like Western rock, but it's nothing new for us, I don't think. I would say that's my I guess that's my analysis of the indie scene, and then on the major side, you're seeing the major bands continue to work on developing their identities in like even more unique ways. Like this Gazette album that's coming out, it seems like it's going to be very. I'm starting to think it's going to be a defining album for them. They're doing a lot of unique things. They're bringing back a lot of things they've done in the past, at least from the Falling that we put out and the songs that they've we've heard them play on the radio or preview on the radio. And then you see Duran Gray is kind of they're trying to figure something out as well with their latest single. I know we definitely were a little shaky on them. But yeah, like more artists I can name.
Sure,
it's just,
shaky.
Yeah, we'll get to it in a second. But I'm using it as an example of like every band in their own way. Like the major bands seem to be like working on their identities in their own way, and coming up with something new. While the indie scene it seems to be getting back a little bit towards getting more like innovative, more experimental, more of a reason to listen to the indie scene as opposed to like let's take the latest Gazette or Duran Gray trend and do it like in 10 different ways. So yeah, that's my general thoughts. So do you want to give yours?
Well, first I'm going to say that Emily mentions Yoshiki, and I'm just like, he's been doing a lot, we get a lot of press releases.
Well, we can get to that, but
we'll get to it in a second. Anyway, I'm gonna give my general. I was gonna just give my general over thoughts anyway. I just had to mention that. I feel like I'm really dying. Yeah, Sora, you're right. Yeah, I'm dying fast. The major scene is trying to be like the indie scene, and the indie scene is how do I put it? The indie scene is just doing whatever the hell they want at this point. And the major scene, like a lot of major bands we've seen from PSC right now, since they had left, they're like, yeah, we can do whatever we want. And then they're like turning into the indie scene. And then you see a lot of other major bands who see these bands doing whatever they want, thinking it's super cool to be able to experiment, and they want to do more things artistically. So you see like the Gazette doing it in a super high quality style, getting like a producer from America and doing whatever they want with their music because they don't give a fuck about what anybody says about their music. And like you see Duran Gray putting out Ningen no Kaboru and making a very questionable sounding song, and then like covering some of their older tracks and remastering them. And I'm trying to think of other big bands that have tried to do what they're doing.
It's hard to remember because they all keep going indie.
Yeah, they do. Mook has been doing great, actually. They've been doing whatever they want to, but they've been doing whatever they want. Their music has always been pretty high quality, given that sometimes they put out like pretty questionable EPs, and we're just like, But thinking, Bucktick recently put out an album, Number Zero, and that was really good. Kyoharu's newest album. Can't remember if that already came out, but like some of the tracks on that album. Oh man, you want to talk about
experimental and great was Kyoharu's new album. That
was beautiful. And then the indie bands, they like, if the major bands are just being really experimental and indie, but still like super clean and high quality in their own right, then the indie bands are just out there in abstract sounding land where you got like Mamirata doing whatever they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. And then you got like, who else? Who else do we follow? Kizu's doing whatever they want to, but like they're doing it really well, honestly. They've stuck to they do different themes pretty consistently, but when they do it, it makes sense. NOLA was pretty good. Grimoire has their own themes, and they're doing pretty decent too. but they've been experimenting in their own right. But Mama Yureta like spearheads the wild experimentations with music and what it is in the first place. Like, what is music is really the question that they're answering. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and then you've got the BP Records bands, which are traditionally like the indie powerhouses, but like I feel like they've kind of run out of steam.
Records.
I'm a little worried they're running out of steam at this point.
No, I think it's because the way for them to go is to just go that abstract sounding route. If you're an indie band, then you're competing. You're now competing with major bands, is what it is, because all those major bands are becoming indie bands in their own right, and then the indie bands are stepping it even further into the abstract direction of whatever they want to do. So if you're an indie band, you've got to basically just become an artist. Like, screw being in a band, being a musician, you are an artist. You got to do what Miyavi's doing to really go ahead. And that's why Miyavi's so interesting, because he's so ahead of the game and did the other thing instead. But if you're an indie band, you're trying to give it in a different light, and you're up against all these high quality bands. So good luck.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I will say, I think that's a great way of kind of assessing the general direction of the scene. I think if we look at generally. For sure. But if we want to move to focusing specifically on like the releases that have come out, I think we'll be a little bit more critical. But I will say, like, it's good we got it out there ahead of time that, like, we're pretty happy the overall direction of the scene. But I do have a ton of releases that I not a ton, but there's a fair amount of releases that I think we were kind of let down by, or not let down by, but maybe it's just controversial. Maybe I should should I puss out and just kind of walk back towards the center here? I'm thinking of like Kamijo's new album. I'm thinking of Duran Gray's latest single.
Okay, no. Fun fact about Kamijo's new album. You know how it's all called Sang?
Yeah.
Sang is blood in French. Because he just wants to be French. So really everything called Sang is called blood, but in French.
Yeah. It's
It still doesn't help, but apparently he has a new single coming out, and that's also called Sang.
I was very irritated when you told me that.
Yeah, I was too. When Cassandra told me that, and I was like, I know who would love to hear this, and sent it to you immediately.
I just know I've heard like 18 different opinions on that album. Like it was just I don't know. There's so many different, like, he's going in a new direction, and some people like it and some people don't like it, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, and you're sure how you feel about it, I think, right? You're pretty sure?
I was looking at the chat because they're all fighting what I just said, and I'm just like, I don't know. I was told by Cassandra. I was told by Google Translate. Blame Google Translate.
Yeah. Well,
please repeat.
Oh, I just said I've heard like 18 different opinions on Sang.
Oh yeah, no, same. One of my friends I was talking to, he was just like he just was exasperated by it, so irritated and tired of it. Because my friend, he's super into Lorraine and stuff, and he's just like, I just want Kamijo to just cover all of the old Lorraine with his new singing voice, and that would be great. But we keep getting however you pronounce it now, the way we know right now is Sang. So however you pronounce, so all we keep getting is Sang. That's all we keep getting for like a year.
Yeah, I would also say that that Hatsune Miku single, I don't think that landed well with most of us when it finally came out. Yeah.
He just did it for the search engine optimization.
Yeah, so you've got that. And then Duran Gray single, like you talked about, was a little.
It was not good. There were parts of it, here's the thing, the part of it the part of it that was good was the part that was in the preview. And because we heard the preview, we were all hyped about it. Like, yo, this is actually this is decent. We're gonna hear it. And then
the chorus.
We hear it, and the whole thing is like it. I told Jeff that it sounds like what was it, that Drowning Pool and Disturbed, but like 2004 versions of them, like when they were in 2004. So it's like they're trying to take 2004 production quality and put it into 2018 production quality.
Yeah, my point was that it sounded like
good.
They were trying to take their avant-garde metal sound and put it into a new metal song structure, and it kind of just crumpled up on itself a little bit, you know?
All those things just did not work. None
Yeah.
of those things worked. But, like, the chorus was nice. The rest of it, not so much.
I will say it got, like, 10 times better when you watch it with the uncensored PV.
Well, the music video, yeah, but I'm talking about the song itself.
Oh no, I know, but I just thought
the video was fine.
Well, they are visual kei, so I thought it was interesting that watching the music video kind of improved that.
Yeah, the music video, because it takes away from your audio experience. You're just so distracted.
Yeah, so if you listen to it, if you half listen to it, it's a great song.
Yeah, then the second song on that single was a cover of one of their older songs, so it's like it doesn't even count. It's just that song.
Yeah.
And then the B-side, and then the other song on that single, there were 3 songs. The third song was a live recording, and that was bad. So it was not, I did not particularly enjoy this single.
Yeah. So we've had some highs and some lows, I would say. You know, those were 2 potential lows. Potential high for me, for a lot of people, I would say Dataroma's mini album, This Is Live, was great. I would say Asagi's...
That was a great mini album.
What was it? Oh yeah.
This Is Live, that was a great mini album.
Yeah, I would say Asagi's solo album was phenomenal. And I'm trying to think of other releases off the top of my head. A9's album, Planet 9, was very interesting. I think it would be somewhat in the middle if you averaged out everyone's thoughts on it, maybe like above average.
You average out everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, that's how I'm trying to view it, is like how we feel about it and how everybody else feels about it, you know. A9 was, that was a very interesting album, Planet 9. Yeah, what else? Some people were talking about Mamireta in the chat, pretty intensely. So they had their 3-month single campaign, and that was highly entertaining,
Some people were talking about Develop One's Faculties, and I love them, so... Yeah.
But yeah, just... we don't want to dive too hard into visual kei until we get towards the end, where I do have some requests and things like that, and we'll just get into specific bands at that point. But in terms of the overall state of the visual kei scene, I think Winona made like the really solid points, or the really the biggest takeaways, which is like the major scene seems to be
major scene is now the indie scene, and the indie scene is whatever the fuck they want to be.
Yes, which means either even more experimental or mainstream.
Is more experimental.
Or mainstream though, because there's some
not mainstream.
I would say mainstream. Vislip is still a thing.
I don't want to say mainstream. I would say they're what's happening is like you have the indie who's like super experimental, but then you have the indie who are like making up for what the major bands aren't producing. So they're doing the thing that's feel good and is ear candy. So ear candy.
Yeah, I guess. Or mainstream friendly. I don't know. Just looking at the
mainstream friendly, but just
look. Asuka just brought one up. That's a good Cloud from Danger Crew. They're a great band, by the way, and their music is not at all bad, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's not.
They've had to grow up really big, really fast, just because they're like one of the big bands now for Danger Crew. So their music has gotten very some of the more mainstream friendly sounds, but like with some interesting twists. It's not just an anime opener over and over again. or a Lunacy knockoff. Speaking of, Lunacy put out an album like in December, so there was that.
That's true. Yeah.
Did that fly under the radar for a lot of people? Because I
think it did.
Yeah.
I saw it. Well, I saw it. Here's my problem. I see things and I don't talk about it because I'm busy. But yeah, I think it flew under the radar for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one thing because we pay attention to like what our readers are into, what international fans in general are into. And so it's one thing when a big release comes out and it's big in Japan, and it's another thing when it's big on the internet, you know? like Dimlim is not big in Japan necessarily, but they're very big on YouTube, for example. They're very big on social media, you know, in terms of I've never talked about Dimlim on this on VKH Live and had someone ask me who they were, you know? And they're not an old band at all. They started last year. So wait, did they start last year or the year before?
Last year.
Yeah.
It was last year.
I would say some of the larger indie bands, then if it's not going mainstream, then they're having small identity crises, basically. Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking Archite is kind of trying to figure out what they want to do. So they've had some solid hits and maybe some solid misses, you know.
Solid misses. Straight up misses.
Unite hasn't had like a miss really, but like they've just been experimenting a lot more, which I'm happy to see out of them. You know, like they had the Kuro Unite, where they
phase. They had their emo phase.
They had their dark alter ego phase, which was very impressive, by the way, for Unite. I was not expecting it to be that good.
I died.
Yeah, I died too.
No, you missed it. My phone fell. You missed it.
Oh, okay.
Look at the camera. Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. See, yeah, I'm paying attention to the live stream. It just kicked in.
Am I.
Yeah.
Blackout. For all they know, I died. But yeah.
Yeah. And now now Unite's coming out with that that new classic album, which is all disco and dancey and stuff like that, or retro, I should say, retro and dancing. They watched some K-pop and they saw the trend where K-pop does retro albums, and so they're giving that a try. You know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty.
Or they saw Bradio and were like, let's do that.
Or also that, yeah. What else? So yeah, I think the first half of 2018 in general for Visual Kei has been like hit and miss and a little all over the place. But we're about to see a lot of high profile releases from bands that I suspect are going to be able to pull off some spectacular shit. You know, like we've got the Gazette next week.
Oh my God, that is next week.
Yeah, which we're going to have to figure out exactly what kind of streams we're doing for, so you can look forward to announcements on that, like probably soon, because it's got to come out soon. So we can cover that. And we've got, what else? We've got Reiten Ichigram no Go-san, which is like the highest profile indie band release I've seen in a while, you know? Like they are very successful for being like, you know, the size of the you know, as small of a band as they are. We've got we've got LMC with their album coming out in August. That's going to be a big deal. We've got Acme with their first full album. It's not out yet, right? It's close, right?
No, it's not coming out. It's coming out in August 8th. Okay,
yeah. So you've got that. You know, who knows what Durangre's going to announce? You know, I don't know if they're going to announce something else. I imagine this one came out early. This single that they just put out came out early enough they could have something else come out. I'm missing some, I'm sure, but even like on the really small underground scale, Zigzag has just announced their first official single. They've only been releasing live limited singles for the last few years or couple years. And none of them were considered official parts of their official discography. So this is going to be the very first official single release from them. That's a big deal for a lot of people. Zin from Jupiter, I believe, has got his first release planned as a solo artist. Jupiter has got a release
David
Jupiter's
is doing something in September.
Yeah, Jupiter has officially made their comeback or announced their comeback. So they've got comeback performances, and then I'm not sure if they announced a release. I can't remember off the top of my head, even though I wrote the article for that. Bad Jeff. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff coming up. Lynch has got an album coming out.
Just kidding. David's thing is in 2019.
I think Dee's got a mini album coming out if it hasn't come out already. So just a tsunami of stuff is of
Lots
like
of things.
Of heavy hitter
2018.
bands. Bands that we usually both indie, major, baby bands. We usually these are releases from artists we usually can rely on to successfully experiment or just make good music.
So 3 days ago, this is the 9th, right? 3 days ago, David released his first mini album. So let's hop on that.
Oh God, I have no time.
And another edition of Requiemage at the same time.
Oh God.
I know we have no time. We're trying, and the bands, like, whoever says Visual Kei is dead is fucking lying. They don't know what's going on right now. We can't even keep up with half these
I kind of
bands
wish it
right
was
now.
dead right now. I'm so behind.
Because we're dead, right?
We're dead instead. It's either them or us. And right now, it's us. That's dead.
It's us. Yeah. Good for you guys that VK ain't dead, but
yeah,
gosh,
good for you.
You're just gonna see so many moments where we're just like, we're dead, like, because VK is so alive and thriving, we are dying.
Yeah. So.
And you know what? I'm dead because someone put press F in chat to pay respects to Winona, and I saw none of you press F in chat. I'm so hurt.
Guys, by the way, if you've enjoyed this stream, help bring Winona back to life. There is a secret special, thing that does restore her health and her soul, and it's
called
you,
money.
It's you leaving a like on the video. It's
that too.
If you like and share, this live stream, that will make her come back to life a little bit, and she'll be fully restored.
Now there's a stream of F's in the chat because I pointed it out. Thanks.
Yeah, so I think that about covers kind of the state of Visual Kei. It's a little bit of a hectic beginning, but I feel like we're gonna get some consistently solid or interesting, at least, releases coming very soon. So
thank you.
Yeah, I think that's about that.
We got a nice group of kids in the chat.
Yeah, we got some
Thanks,
good
kids.
some good boys and girls in the chat. It's good. Yeah. So well then, Winona, should we let you go? And
yes, please.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Winona, and I will continue on solo. But
I can usually survive longer, but it's been a hard week. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows why it's a hard week.
Yeah, well, yeah, we both started new jobs, new day jobs at the same time, and Winona's,
I'm the kid.
Winona's learning the 9 to 5 life,
It's a 10 to 6 life, but like
it's still
I 8:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, I know. I've been there, so I remember what it was like the first time. So
God, I'm learning the adult life, and like I hate it a lot. I still have homework. What is this? I thought I wasn't supposed to have homework. Jeff, you lied to me.
No,
I still have to study. This is stupid.
Here's the thing. I usually classify homework as unnecessary and irrelevant. So in that sense, it's not homework because they're asking you to. It's just work. Yeah.
But it's work that you do at home.
It doesn't have to be. You can go to a Starbucks.
But you're so annoying. Whatever, it's fine. I like my homework. It's for a noble cause, and I can't even talk about it. So guys, pay attention to my Twitter in July because it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, she's got a cool project coming out.
I've got a dope things going on. I'm excited.
We've both got like 5 or 6, 8 different dope things going on, both in and outside of VKH. We're gonna be dead.
We have lives, but we don't have lives because we're dead. So
yeah. So all right,
it's a social life.
Take it easy, Winona. Try and nap or something.
And what's a nap? It's 11 p.m. Jeff. I'm about to go eat dinner.
I mean, I'm on my sleep schedule's all fucked up again, so it would be a nap.
I fixed it, but I'm dead. I'm gonna sleep.
All right, go to sleep. Everybody say goodbye to Winona, chat.
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till they say bye.
You're just gonna wait. I can't leave until you say bye.
I can't. You're just letting me die so hard without saying bye.
Yep.
Wow. Rip. I got a rip.
All right. Yep. There they go. All right. Talk to you later, fam.
Okay.
All
bye.
Right. Bye.
Night, guys.
Okay. Now let's see what that did to the stream now that she hung up. Okay. Great. Now I can just remove that and move me down. We can kind of just go with that for now. So yeah, that's we've got a few that's a good that's a nice solid recap of Visual K. We've done a few J-Rock bands. I have more to go through. So we will continue. You could continue. You could consider this my me making it up to you guys for the broken stream, the messed up stream on Thursday. I am now punished Venom Jeff, and this is my way of paying retribution. So I'm going to do even more of the state of J-Rock bands and do even more content for you guys. So make sure that if you have any bands that you haven't tweeted at me that you would like me to cover, leave them in the chat. Super chat them if you want to guarantee that I'll cover them. I am going to go through as many of these as I can. Some of these I am pretty well versed in. A few of the ones you guys requested, unfortunately, I may or may not be super familiar with. So if anybody does have strong like feelings about a band, and you feel like I may not have covered it or something, again, the super chats, I am required by the law of my own honor and dignity. I will read and promote whatever you super chat at us, so there's always that as an option, and I will also read the chat as much as I can to get into that. So but we are going to get into the next band that I really wanted to cover pretty solidly here. So let me pull up that. Oh, you know what? Okay, I know which one that would be. And this one will be probably a quick one just because I actually haven't listened to their latest release since it was a full album. But I have listened to enough of their newer music to know that this is a very interesting, it's definitely worth talking about. So let me grab the image, throw it in here. I will talk about this briefly, and then we can just keep going and over. So let's see. Wagaki Band. This is who I wanted to talk about next. So Wagaki Band's been doing some very interesting things. I personally love Wagaki Band. I loved when they, were, just started out with their first album that was all Vocaloid covers. I was really interested in their last album that they put out. So they have been doing some very interesting things lately in terms of the kind of music that they have decided that the kind of musical direction that they've decided they want to go in. So the first thing they did was they put out a single, and it was called Synchronicity. I was like, I'm gonna have to like pronounce more Japanese, but no, it was called I I believe it's called Synchronicity. Yes, it was. And I guess that was part of their I guess that was like the PV that came with their best collection that they released at the end of 2017, it looks like. Excuse me. But I don't see it anywhere else in their discography. So as far as I'm aware, it was a brand new song. And it makes sense because it was very new direction for them. They went jazzy. They are they are basically a Japanese folk metal, folk rock band, I guess, mixing Japanese traditional Japanese instruments with rock music and doing like an amazing job of it. But I will say that this was very different even for them. It was very jazzy. The PV was set in like a jazz style environment. There's a lot of chill dancing going on. It's very retro. So it's very interesting to see a band that is known for their traditional music, like their traditional Japanese instruments and stuff, seeing that take on the jazz, the jazz style. And it was very risky for them. And I found that was very impressive. So just wanted to bring that up. In terms of their actual releases for 2018, they released their latest album, which is called Otonoe, and I'm sure I butchered that, but so I guess the single that they put out ahead of that was Yuki Kageboshi, and basically for this album, I'm still going through it. I've listened to a few tracks, skimmed through the rest of it. They've decided to go in a softer direction for the most part. And I thought that was an interesting move for them because, it's just such a weird scenario for them, for a band like them, is that they started off as like this badass hardcore band that was somehow also making like gloriously catchy and soothing songs in spite of the fact that they were, mixing like blazing guitar solos with, shamisen solos. And, I think you guys get the idea, just look up Wagaki Band and you'll see what I mean. Like all their top videos, it's like, it's wild and creative and fresh and at the same time, like just a joy to listen to. So their version of a new direction is actually to slow things down, chill things out, and, create some more atmospheric music that's sometimes relaxing, but just generally engrossing. So I actually look forward to going through the entire album, maybe reporting back on it a little bit. But it's definitely it's solid stuff from what I've seen so far. So I'm curious to see how long it's not like this is the first time they've done soft music, but it's definitely the first time they've really pushed it so consistently to this degree. So it's pretty interesting to see them go in that direction, especially when other bands are going heavier. I don't really see Wagaki Band ever. I've never noticed Wagaki Band doing things that are ever in line with whatever the trend is to begin with. So I'm not exactly surprised that what they're doing is is so different from other bands, because they've just always been pretty different from other bands. But I was very caught off guard by how much I enjoyed it, and the fact that they didn't. As far as I can tell, you can kind of phone in. I see a lot of Japanese bands, they're pretty good at phoning in like the soft songs, so it's like if someone's never heard Japanese music before and they hear this soft song, they may be like, oh wow, this is gorgeous, this is amazing. But if you're a fan or you're a longtime listener, you can kind of tell and you're like not exactly impressed, right? But they seem to have done a pretty good job, or a solid job, I should say. So that's about all I can say for them for now. So different direction. We'll be curious to see if they keep the soft sound, or the slow soft sound, or if they go in other directions. Let's see who we can talk about next. Okay. Let's talk about my first story. So my first story, let me grab a picture for them. Normally, I have all of these images when I do these ahead of time. I apologize for that, but there were so many. There's so much material to put together for this stream. There's just I would either have all the images and know nothing about what I'm talking about, or so I had to make a call there. But thank you for bearing with me. So my first story, they put out an album in 2018, in March of this year, and it's called The Premium Symphony. The two PV tracks off of it are that I'm aware of. There might be others. Are Reviver and Kyojin Neuros. Excuse me. My general assessment of my first story at the moment is that they kind of are more of the same at this point, which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, depending on how much you like my first story. It's just a very I'm seeing never heard of these guys. I'm not sure if that was in reference to Wagaki Band or my first story, but it does remind me that you know what, I should probably get into my first story, the backstory of my first story a little bit. But Bryn says, Jeff, please tell me you don't consider Wagaki Band Visual Kei. No, I don't, unless they do, and I'm not aware that they do. I see some Visual Kei influences. The bassist kind of cross dresses, stuff like that, but no reason to assume they are. So for anyone who doesn't know my first story, the vocalist is the little brother of Taka from One OK Rock, which is pretty interesting because I would consider a lot of their music to be like a modern day take on some of One OK Rock's previous albums. And I guess what that means is that it's a little bit more rock sounding. It's a little bit more energetic, a little bit punk, but the modern side comes with slicker production than your average rock band. A little bit of experimentation with non-rock music, a small amount of electronic music, small amount of, different background music. And then also really catchy Japanese mainstream friendly choruses, anthemic kind of a style to the choruses. Very anime opener friendly while still being a little bit on the energetic kind of hard side as well. So they kind of fluctuate in that general zone. They're pretty good, I would say, overall in my estimation. I tend to like them when they get a little bit harder, a little bit edgier, a little bit rougher around the edges. And sometimes they do that, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes, and it's very on and off in terms of they're either very predictable in terms of just being like a very mainstream sounding J-rock band, or like getting a little wild, little heavy with their music, going more the punk route. Sometimes it can change up in the same song. But my general analysis of them as of now is that it is more of the same, which is that I think they're a little bit still too much on the side of appealing to the mainstream, and would like to see them more just being their own unique band. Didn't they do something for an anime? Maybe thinking of someone else. I'm actually not entirely sure. I would imagine they would. Like, their music is perfect for anime. My first stories is, at least. But I'm still kind of waiting for them to see. I don't know, to see something now that they've like really blown up quite a bit, I would say, compared to when they first started out. I'm kind of waiting to see if they are, I'm waiting for them to take the first brave step of, as a big popular band, or as an increasingly popular band, going out and trying something, that's more like punk rock, or like that's more hard rock, or just deviates from the formula, if you will, a little bit. So I'm waiting to see a little bit more out of them. Otherwise, like, they're a decent band, like, they're interesting. They're like, if they're a great representation of like what the average popular J-rock band would be, which you can take that for, take that however you want to take that, basically. In the context of J-rock, maybe that's not a great thing, and you would want more original, unique music. But I mean, if you were going to show someone a band, is someone who's, usually listens to Western music, like a J-rock band that wasn't too crazy, so as to not scare them off, this would be like a good band to do that with. So yeah, I would say, yeah. So more releases required before I'm, at a point where I can like give more of a more positive feedback than, they seem pretty decent. More of the same, but it's still more of the same. But it's kind of hard to, knock it. It is what it is. I don't know if that sounds too safe or not, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if they've ever really hidden what they are or what they've been for the last few years. And they are energetic enough, and they are, they have some great guitar riffs and things like that, if that's what they want to do over and over, then that's what they want to do over and over. But I did always tell people that it's like, if you don't like the crazy direction One OK Rock is going, like, I would point you to My First Story, to be honest. Like, that is, they really do remind me of, like a new school take on old school One OK Rock. If that sounds a little bit heretical to you, I'm sorry, but I have a strong memory of the old school One OK Rock that people are that I hear people wishing that One OK Rock would go back to, not being that not being that much different from your average mainstream J-rock band. So so yeah, I would point you towards My First Story and checking them out, and maybe seeing if that's more up your alley. There's so many different definitions of mainstream when we're dealing with Japanese music, because it's like mainstream, because we're international fans. So our home country's version of mainstream is wildly different from Japan's version of mainstream. It just kind of depends. And then at the end of the day, it's like, do you even care if they have a mainstream sound? Like, what if they just do it well? So anyway, that's enough rambling on that. But yeah, pretty decent. Check them out if you haven't heard of them. Next band I want to get into is, what's going on in the chat? Delay on the stream. Uh-oh. All right. Well, I will. I'll make sure I delay reading the chat long enough to be able to get it to catch up. Also, I should probably switch over to live chat just in case. All right. So next band I want to talk about is the Oral Cigarettes, and we'll start running through these a little bit more succinctly. The Oral Cigarettes, for those of you that don't know, is kind of the latest in terms of these alt rock bands that are like, that come out of Japan that are just like really good. Like I'm thinking of, One OK Rock, for example, My First Story, but like more particularly like Alexandros was like the last one that was like, oh wow, this is like really solid. this is really solid alt rock that's coming, that's coming out of Japan, and good for them. They got famous, and same with like Hello Sleepwalkers. Radwimps was one of the originators of that, I suppose, in terms of breaking, or one of the older ones in terms of breaking out into like, mass recognition. But the Oral Cigarettes is like sort of the latest one of those I would consider that's really kind of broken out lately. Their big hit that they had that really put them on the map was called Kyoran Hey Kids, and it was used as the opener for for an anime series. I believe it was Noragami, and that really blew up on YouTube. It's got a lot of views. Really solid, really interesting. They're very energetic for they're the kind of alt rock band that isn't afraid to get like, very I don't know how you would put it. Basically, their guitarists, their bassists, their instrumentals are like really catchy, but also very well developed, and you can tell they're like not easy to play. They weave together guitar melodies and bass melodies, and even a little bit of like electronic music here and there in very interesting ways, and keep it catchy. So if you like bands like Hello Sleepwalkers, if you like bands like Radwimps, like old school Radwimps, or even Alexandros, especially Alexandros back in the day, the Oral Cigarettes is probably going to be right up your alley, because they are making catchy songs, but the majority of it is really focused on the majority of the music that they make is built around the actual instruments themselves, and not like blending with other genres like pop. So I think they seem to have ascended to like a new level of like, I love this band personally, with this latest album that they put out, which is Kisses and Kills. And again, with the amount of releases coming out, I'm still going through this one as well, although I have skimmed it. But the one there's a few songs on there that are, they had one of the songs on there that there's a PV for is called Black Memory. That was catchy. That was a solid song. The one that blew me away recently, they just put out a PV for. It's called Yoshi Tanreina Uso, and it's amazing. The hook is like this like fantastic like catchy guitar riff, like really high up guitar riff, and it's so well done in how catchy it is. It's very romantic in a certain way. That's something I noticed about them. They've gotten more and more romantic. There's like a romantic vibe to some of their music. It's not just like catchy and jumpy. It's like, it's very smooth, very, there's a groove to it now. It was just so good. Like, I strongly recommend checking it out. If you just type in the Oral Cigarettes, it'll be like the newest PV they put out, and it just is like absolute ear candy, but like, well played, and not just, it's not some basic bitch music by a long shot. It's really well done. So I think these guys are continuing to be on the up and up. I look forward to listening to the entire album for Kisses and Kills, because they do have an album sampler up on YouTube. I listened through that. It sounded great. So I'm really happy that like they didn't stagnate like a lot of these bands do. I think they're flourishing. So I'm really excited about that. Zero says they have a nice cover on Muck's tribute album too. Recently. Yes, I do remember that song. They did have one of the better covers on the Muck tribute album. It was very much them. So, yeah. Let's see. What's next on the list? I think I covered a lot of the ones that really stuck out to us. Let's see. I would say, okay, so for this next one, I want to get chat's opinion on. I'm curious if any of you have listened to them at all. Let me see if I can find a decent enough picture for them. Do, 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 do. Let's see. Sorry, guys, give me 1 second. All right, so the next band is called Bandmate, and I'm assuming a lot of you are familiar with them because they have become quite a bit of a hit. I would say that if you have thought about sleeping on this band, so they're like a rock band. They all dress kind of like maids a little bit. It's all female. If you guys have passed on them, just based on them seeming a little too gimmicky, I would say take a look at them and at least like let us know in the comments or in the chat like what you think about them. Because this is like they are much better than like I would have expected them to be. You know, they're actually much less light than you would think they would be. I would classify a lot of their stuff as hard rock. They do some solid. It's almost like the next reincarnation of like what Scandal was, but in the context of like the current trends, and the current trends are much heavier than when Scandal debuted or got big, right? So they are not a light rock, pop rock group, so to speak. At the very least, their guitars can certainly shred. So they've definitely, with their latest PVs, they put out their second album, Domination. And this is really like one of those bands that it's like I could see because of the image and the branding that it's like it's kind of something like that might seem gimmicky, but it's not, you know. Zero actually just said Zero says their music isn't gimmicky. Yes, we had that at the same time. That's funny. But yeah, so I would definitely check them out. I would say their music videos are actually pretty cool. They're very they're kind of rock style music videos, like cleaned up rock style music videos. They seem to be trying like making a genuine effort to like be a rock band. And I will also say that I personally enjoyed their. They had one of the I think more solid covers on Muck's tribute album as well. They covered Honey, and they nailed that one. You know, they could have gone with like a much easier song to cover, but they went for the hard rock one. You know, so like they're really going for it. I'm liking what I'm hearing in general. I'm not sure if I'm like convinced enough to like start listening to full albums by them. I think I'll at least check it out. But in terms of the PV music that they've released, it's pretty solid. So we'll see. And they've become quite popular. And so I definitely just wanted to bring them up as a note that it's like, at the very least, you don't want to sleep on them yet, so, at least as far as I'm concerned, I definitely, it's not like I don't understand, the tendency, because I mean, unfortunately the whole what would you call it, the all girl band trend or whatever is starting to get played to death. I can't tell you how many how many bands like that it's like the selling point is they're all girls. Isn't that crazy? Like, it's like, no, it's not crazy. Like we've seen this a lot in Japan, actually. I can see how the all female band genre, which is really gross, just like even think about it that way, but that seems how to be, some people seem to be marketing them. It seems to be very saturated right now. So I'm glad that a band like Bandmate is like focusing. They seem like they're focusing so intently on making some hard rock music and stuff. So yeah, just take that for what it's worth. Let's see. So the next band I'm gonna go into is Sim, and I'm just gonna use this image just because I love this image. I hope that doesn't come out too bad. Does it come out on the stream? Yeah, it looks okay. Good enough. I really enjoy the goofiness of this band sometimes, but so sorry guys, taking my gum out real quick. So the only thing I have to go off of in terms of what Sim has done recently was their single that they put out at the end of 2017. So I can check real quick and see if there's anything else that's come out. I don't think there is. No, there's not. So, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it's like there hasn't been a ton of activity since since 2016. They had The Beautiful People was their last album. That was kind of like they went back more to like their ska punk origins, as they call it. They call their music ska punk, and it's very, it's basically it's like hard rock mixed with like with ska is like the easiest way for me to describe it. But they have also had a long history of very expertly blending in electronic music. The bassist will use this distortion instrument that I constantly forget where it goes on his ring finger, like it's a clip, and then he just has to wave it over his bass, and it makes like a dubstep style wow wow. And then they what else? And then the guitarist will straight up switch over to the small like EDM keyboard with like that he can use to kind of like make some distorted dubstep as needed. But then at the same time, they're also all very intense with their main instruments, and they're just a solid band to listen to. They're basically like Crossface Big Brother band if you're not familiar with them. They've been around a couple years longer than them, but they do some heavy stuff with some unique experimentation and in their own unique style. And actually, after that album, they had they did a versus single with Crossfaith called "Get It Out" that was done for a Red Bull campaign, and then after that, I didn't see a ton out of them until December. They put out a double A-sided single. The first song was called A, and the second song was called Sound of Breath. And this was like them like kind of going back more to this was them kind of like balancing the chakras of their sound almost, because you had A, and A is like he's singing abracadabra or abracadabra is kind of how it came out, but I give him a pass because he's usually I give the vocals a pass because he's usually really solid at singing in English anyway, but and he's like slightly auto-tuned, and then like it's like a hard rock sound, and they've got like the whole it's heavy and they're screaming, and then like a solid chorus, good old classic like headbangable Sim music. And then the other side or the other A side is called The Sound of Breath, and it's very different. Like there's some electronic music, but instead of mixing it with like their hard rock sound, they mix it with like this reggae kind of sound and style and rhythm, and so the verses are like very I think the easiest way would be to call it reggae. And then the vocals is singing, and it's his music. His voice is full on auto-tuned at that point. And Sim is one of those bands that it's like when they use auto-tune, you don't have a problem with it because they're really invoking it in a specific in terms of a specific genre that they're using. So it's like it's usually like he's using it in a pop style almost, and then switching over to clean vocals without auto-tune when it's more of a rock style. And They're just very good at handling those pop elements and those electronic elements in like a genuine way. So I've never had a problem with it. I actually enjoy it a lot. It feeds really well into the reggae influences and stuff as well, and the ska influences. But and then it just turns into this powerful chorus where the autotune comes off and he is singing clean, just like really, and it's just really powerful. And it was very different for as much as they've done different stuff. This was pretty different, even in and of itself. So it was very good to see that. It kind of felt like a single that they like put extra time into. So that's the latest thing from Sim. So hopefully we see more from them. But I was just definitely very impressed by that. And Sim's always been one of my personal favorite bands, so I may be a little biased as well. But yeah, I genuinely enjoyed it. All right, so I believe that's the majority of. I think that's all of the bands that we had planned to cover, or at least that I'm able to cover. I know we had a few in here. I think there was a couple in here that I unfortunately still need to catch up on, but I know I've made significant progress, at least over time. You know, Uverworld, for example. Uverworld is still making music. I unfortunately haven't caught up with them particularly to really be able to give a solid breakdown of them. I've never been anything more than a casual Uverworld listener personally, but their later stuff that I've seen seems pretty solid. So they seem to be at least not running out of gas, you know. And then the other one that I don't think we'll have time for, but I would like to start covering this band in the future, just because it's very curious the way they've sort of like grown in general is Sekai no Owari, which is like they kind of started out, in my opinion, as like the Owl City of Japan, you know, which is like they're just very, 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 very light pop rock, and very good at it. But because it's of Japan, it's like their own quirky, unique, magical take on that, and it was very upbeat and happy music. But they've been doing a bit of growing and experimentation over the last few years as well. So those are two bands I at least just wanted to bring up because most people know them both very well. If you have any thoughts on them, feel free to leave them in the chat. But at the same time, I still think I'm waiting on a few more releases from them, like more current releases, so I can kind of get a better idea of where they're at currently, because I don't have my ear as close to the ground on some of these bands. Like I said, we are still we do cover J-Rock and Visual Kei, but we are still like working on kind of branching out so into all of the J-Rock bands. So we've kind of just been prioritizing stuff that we think is interested and stuff that our fans think are interesting. So yeah, let's see. Hisoka says, Sekai no Owari, we stand Fukase. Okay, well, good to know. Good to know it's not just me that's interested in them. That's cool. Oh boy. Did we get our first porn bot? Oh boy. I saw Bryn call that out. I just found it. That's funny. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, so moving on. Bryn, don't go for it. Don't fall for it. It's a trap. And anyway, the mods will get to it anyway. So, but yeah. So, well, that's how you know the stream is popular. Yeah, I was completely caught off guard because we had like trolls come in, and I was like, I thought it was like a little too early for that. But yeah, I guess they'll just go for they'll go for anything at this point. There's so many streams going on the internet. Yeah, so I have a couple of listener requested or viewer requested ones on that we got ahead of time. So I will grab a couple images for those. So these are going to be JRock and v-kei. So I will just kind of, there's no particular order to them. First one that was requested was this one. It's called Sarigia, I suppose. And they're very new, brand new, I think, indie v-kei band. They've popped up on my suggested feed a few times, so I have listened to some of their music. It's like symphonic rock, symphonic metal. I would say I enjoyed it personally. I think there's potential there for sure. It's put together very well. I think the vocalist needs to work a little bit on, if I remember correctly, his rough vocals. But his clean vocals are really solid, and there's a huge drought for anything remotely symphonic, even if it's like electronic music kind of doing a symphonic style. Like it's there's a huge drought for that. But at the same time, it wasn't anything brand new for me. Like it wasn't anything particularly special. Or something that I hadn't heard tried before, but it was just done quite well. So that's pretty standard at this point for like new indie bands. If they're like testing the waters, they usually go with like a tried and true style or do a slight take on it. I'll say their look, I'm not sure if this picture kind of does it justice, but in their PV, their look is really solid. Like the vocalist is very shiny, yeah, as you might be able to tell. So there's potential there. There's a star power potential, that sort of a thing. Let me give the chat a quick second to give a couple comments themselves if they want. Let's see. And while they're doing that, I will grab the next image for the next band. Okay, let's see. What's chat up to? My favorite Gazette cover band. Oof. Oh, really? I'm not sure. Oh, that's I'll have to go back and double check and see. Which Gazette song they're inspired by. Asuka says they need to do something of their own, TBH. Bryn says I like their look. Lauren seems to like them. And had some comments about Uberworld. Zero says Uberworld's last album, Tycoon, was very long and varied. They added some new elements, and the sax player is composing again for the first time since Timeless. Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah, I'll definitely... that's the kind of band I don't exactly want to get like a Cliff Notes version of. I kind of want to dive into and see where they're at. So I'm really going to have to go back and catch up with them. Monophobia... I haven't been keeping up with them in years, but I like their older stuff. Yeah, so you're about in my boat then. They have a Gabriel on the Gallows copy. Their first PV is quite inspired by Dogma. Okay, all right, cool. Fair enough. Lauren likes their sound. What do you think of Roselia? I am not familiar with Roselia. I will have to check them out. But I'll make a note of that. Okay. So the next band, a lot of small bands, is I think this is the right picture, and I'm not sure if it's intentionally faded or if I just grabbed a bad image. I'm just going to touch on them briefly. Is Darian Marion, which is a fun name to say. This is like a brand new band, as far as I can tell. I checked out one of their PVs, and I liked what I heard. It's just it was a little rough around the edges. It was like a little heavy. It was heavy at some points, and then it was like not so heavy and energetic at other points, I guess. And it just seemed like a weird blend of the two, light and heavy. And then I remember just getting really savage. There was like a very savage breakdown. So a lot of things I like. I just think they're very young. So and that was their first single, if I remember correctly. So hopefully we see more out of them. You never know with like these bands that start right off the bat. You never know with these bands like when they only have like a few singles out. With certain exceptions, you don't know if they're like going to go anywhere or if it's just gonna, not really work out and they may have to disband. So we will see. But I think it was a decent starting point for sure. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about them. Let's see. Yeah, there's been a lot of it's really interesting when you get into like these brand new bands because they either start off with their act like extremely together, or it's like they need work and they need to like go over time and stuff. And what's funny is that neither one of those is an indicator for how they're going to end up doing overall as a band over time. It's usually the ones that just like really seem really solid at the beginning. Like I'm thinking of Vexant with their first single, for example. Like they were like that was amazing. Like but then over time, those bands might end up disappointing you and have disappointed me like in the past. Like Vexant kind of let me down when they started like just doing copycat songs. To be quite frank. But then there's other bands that are their sound's disorganized. They need improvement in the beginning, and then they come together, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. Glad I stuck around. So next band that was requested was Trinity Decode, is I believe the way it's pronounced. So this is the first band of Chaos Entertainment, Chaos Records Japan branch, which is the label. Chaos is the label that's owned and run by Yohio. So they recently opened a Japan record label, and this is the first band that they signed to it. So this band is pretty substantial because the vocalist is the former vocalist of Killineth. If anyone's familiar, Killineth was pretty fucking badass before they disbanded abruptly. And I personally love the vocalist's voice. His rough vocals are like A1. Like it's like, yeah, they know what they're doing for sure. Or he knows what he's doing for sure. And then I believe their drummer is also now in this band, but he's a manipulator, as in like a DJ kind of guy. And then they have a new drummer and, just guitars and basses. So we've talked about them in the past, so I'll just give like a quick summary of them. Long story short is that I believe they only have one single out. I'm not if they have something new out. I'll have to. I won't be able to really comment on it, but the first stuff that they have a PV up, and it's good, solid. It's a good, solid song, but for 2013, basically. I'm trying to say this without sounding too mean, because it's not really that big of a deal. It's not like it. I'm not trying to be too hard on such a new band. Basically, it's just doing a style that's been done, way too many times, which is the metal and electronic music sort of thing. And you can tell they've got all the pieces, but like this just wasn't like super, or original at all. You can tell their look is solid, their production value is solid, and all that. So our general consensus, I think, between me and Winona is, and we've said this before, is just wait and see with them because there's potential. Again, this is there's members in this band that really know what they're doing, that I can guarantee know what they're doing. And it may have just been like a soft start, just kind of testing the waters, that sort of thing. They do seem, judging by their look, they do seem to be going for like that cyber goth look. So they may just be interested in, that general sound. So they may be doing the electronic metal thing permanently. If they do, they need to, kind of get more unique about it. Or But it was pretty decent for what it is. It's just I've heard it, a lot. So, yeah. So let's go on to the next band. If this doesn't show up too well, I may have to get another one. So the next band is Rides in Rebellion. Someone asked me to talk about Rides in Rebellion. Rides in Rebellion is fantastic. I don't know if we have much of an update from them as of 2018. I do know they had a full album come out last year that I have gone through partially, and it's solid. It's solid music. Their unique twist is that they do symphonic rock music, but from but instead of symphonic instruments, they use like electronic music, like dubstep and things like that. Dubstep, synths, all that sort of a thing. They're very heavily inspired by X Japan. So it is like that kind of a, old school elegance sort of thing. In that you can see in their songs and in their music. Their choruses are always like just so blissful, like so nice. Sorry guys, I'm trying to find a better image. Let's try this one. Because I think this one is showing up kind of crappy. Yeah, it looks kind of crappy. Let's try this one. Yeah, this was like one of my more personal favorite looks. So I actually saw them live when they came to what was it? I think it was Anime USA in Washington DC. Yeah. So they came to Anime USA in Washington DC, I believe like 2 years ago, and it was their debut in the US. And we got to interview them, and then we covered their live, and they were fantastic live. They were a baby band at the time. They were just like brand new, like 3 singles out, and they were great. They were really, really good. And they really impressed people. And what was even more impressive is that they had people that drove like as far as Michigan, from as far away as Michigan, I think. So technically people driving across the country to come see them, like just a few of them, sure. But for such a new band, like they resonated with people pretty quickly. And you can kind of see that with like the PVs that they put up, that like they're, they get a lot of views on YouTube and things like that. So I believe they are, we should be seeing something from them, relatively soon. I hope. They were one of the bands that they are one of the bands that Lori, who's come on this show, she runs V-Star Promotion. So she works with them, and V-Star works on getting Visual Kei bands to connect with international fans. So they did have a English Twitter for a while, and things like that. I believe they're in the process of kind of getting back to the point where they can reach back out to fans even more. But from what I had seen online, they've just been doing a lot of touring and kind of growing their Japanese base and stuff like that. But I would definitely keep an eye out for them because, they are a very international friendly band. They put subtitles on a lot of their PVs, just, and their music's just really solid too. So, it comes in, this band comes to you highly recommended, courtesy of Jeff. Is basically the long and short of it. So, let's see. So the next band we're going to talk about is... Let me grab the... Let me grab this guy. Next band that was requested was Dataroma. So I really enjoy Dataroma. I think they like in 2017, maybe even a bit of 2016, they were doing a lot of experimentation where they were trying new sounds. Their last mini album, Dadaism number 3, they really actually moved away from their metalcore, their badass metalcore sound. Excuse me. That they're most well known for, and almost just, I guess, in an effort to try other sounds like hard rock or even some lighter stuff. And then they continued that over the course of a few singles. But this image is from their latest mini album, which is called This Is Live, and they just basically returned back to their core sound with a vengeance. I've talked about it in past streams, so I won't go into it too much. But they've just come back with a vengeance, like just hard. I don't know, like how do I even say it? Like hardcore sound, like metalcore, just blissfully, crazy metalcore. They're not afraid to experiment a little bit with, some pop elements. You can definitely tell there's some Gazette style inspiration in terms of their interest in trying to play around with pop music a bit. This mini album was fantastic. The PV track, I've said it before, I'll say it again, is called The Kinky. It's technically the worst song on the album, so but I still personally enjoy that song a lot. It really grew on me. It's really fun. But the rest, like literally every other track on there is like a better song in my opinion. Like my favorite songs on there would be like, I would say I play The Kinky more than like maybe a couple of the other tracks just because it's really catchy and fun to listen to. But like the Phantom Pain, which is like the first one, like that song blew me away. And that's how the mini album starts out. And it's just like, it's so like, it's intense, but then it's also like kind of crazy in terms of like, just the general attitude of the song. There's like almost like a ska like guitars in the or like a ska like guitar effect in spite of the fact that there's definitely metalcore drumming, and it's a crazy song. It flows really quickly, and it just like hooks you in. I'm trying to think what else is like crazy. So like in the chorus, like Yoshiatsu, the vocalist, it's like he sings really low, but it's like it's like the range kind of moves up and then it moves down and then moves up and then it moves down, and then at the same time there's like guitars going on in the background, and it's just like everything's like running, just like coming together, and then it just like bursts out into more like heaviness, and like that's just one of the tracks. There's other tracks on there that are like something a little bit more along the lines of something heavier, like a Duran Gray style track, or and they've like done some very like Duran Gray style experimentation. Like you can tell they were inspired by that in the past, but this time they've like kind of reined it in more into like their own kind of style. I'm and then the last song on the mini album is called Kids War, and that song has actually been an unreleased song for as old as like around the time their first single came out, the Ame no Waltz single, because they have a live compilation, like it was just like a bunch of clips from like one of their lives around that time, which I think was 2016. And they're playing that song in there, and so they've like updated that song to like 2018 Dataroma style, and it's just like it's their like Headache Man by the Gazette, or like it's their what's the Durian Gray equivalent? What's it called? It's like their version of Child Prey by Durian Gray, like that crazy fan favorite burn the house down song that you just like get all your energy out to. And it's really good. It's really solid. Great way to close out an album. I'm not gonna lie. So, yeah. So let's see what else I got here. I think I have time for one more, and then I will most likely need to peace out, because good God, we've been going about 4 hours. So yeah, I saw some people were bouncing in and out in the chat. That's totally understandable. Feel free to if you know to come back and play what you missed like at a later time. I personally tend to not shy away from doing long streams if I feel like it. Usually we try and keep them short lately for the sake of everyone's sanity, but there's not exactly a ban on it from my side, because I personally I've seen how people do enjoy some of these like long 4-hour streams and stuff, just because I listen to some of those. You just kind of put it on in the background, you just kind of chill out, and you do work, and then you listen to someone ramble about Japanese music, and that's your day, man. Like so I feel for people like that. Yeah, what should be... Let's see. I can take a suggestion from chat for the last one. Let's do that. And we can kind of wrap it up. Yeah, so I'll just do last call. Any other bands, if you want like an assessment as of 2018 for me to talk about, we can kind of... yeah, we can do one more, and then we'll go ahead and call it a day. And while that's coming in, I'll see what I missed in the chat. No, not Phantom Pain like Metal Gear Solid. But yeah, okay. I got two. I'm gonna do both of them. Okay, so Datura was asked by Lauren. Okay, so I'm going to talk about them briefly, and then I'm going to do the other one that was suggested. So Datura, unfortunately, I believe the vocalist just left. So they're kind of in not a great state right now. But I do know that they do have like a pretty dedicated fan base. So the state of them in 2018 is obviously not great, right? Because like they're a little... When you lose your vocalist, you're definitely in trouble. But I personally really did not enjoy them a lot. I really didn't find them very original. So I don't like to shit on people's bands if they like them or whatever. So, but like there's just a lot of the stuff that they did that I'd heard before. I think the thing that really rubbed me the wrong way was they did that song called Imitation, and then the PV and the song looked and sounded so much like Terrors by Diora, which is such a different which was such a, like, anybody who's into Diora, like, they know that song and everything. And so it was like, all right, what's going on here? Like, this sounds like the same thing. Like they did it. It was like like an improved version maybe, just because it's like 2018. And that in Terrors is pretty old at this point. But yeah, I was just never too much into them. I was waiting for something a little bit more original, but I can tell that those boys knew how to dress, judging by the just the popularity on Instagram I saw and certain comments and things like that. So it's yeah, that's all. That's the best I can do. Sorry, and I think that's the best. I think that's the best Winona would be able to do too. She might be like a little bit harder than I'm being. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I got a couple more coming in. Amazarashi. Okay. I saw that one, Gula. I don't know enough about them to like do them justice. So I'm going to talk about them in a future time. How about that? Okay, so yeah, let me make a note of this real quick. I have to make a note of this stuff. So I got to look at Rosalia and Amazarashi. Because I've seen a few Amazarashi music videos and they kind of blow my mind. They seem really cool. So I'm definitely going to check them out. But I kind of suspect that they might make for a little bit more than just like a quick mention on a stream. So like, but we'll see. And they may just be someone I want to cover, that I want VKH to cover. So, and for LMC, I don't want to, there's not a ton to really cover for them. We're going to cover them pretty intensely when the, when the album's about to come out. So we'll have a state of LMC for sure. Like, so that'll definitely be there. Yeah, so let's do the other one that was in there, which is Mamireta. I love this band. I honestly love this band. This band cracks me the hell up. It's I like their music. Their music's pretty good. But it's like whether or not the music's good really doesn't seem to be the point of this band. Like, because it's just like they just don't give a fuck. Like, you can tell it in the music videos, obviously, but even in the the music itself, it's just like they're chugging on the guitar riffs, and then they're doing like an awkward guitar playing or whatever, with some like off kilter sound, and the vocalist is just like, what the fuck ever. It's kind of like his general attitude, and so they alternate between that and also being batshit crazy. So yeah, I very much enjoy them. I enjoyed. I play Ojamashimas constantly. These 3 singles, the Shin singles that they put out these last these last 3 months, they were all very entertaining. The more recent one of those 3, where they're like, it's just the band members like repeatedly something coming in the vicinity of their face and something happening that just makes them faint onto the ground in the exact same way over and over and over again. It's ridiculous. It's funny. And the ne. That one's a personal favorite of ours at VKH. Zero points out that the first album is coming soon. Yeah, that's true. I'd forgotten about that. So that's going to be fun. They're just fun, man. Even like the live clips I've seen of them, you can just kind of tell, like when the vocalist is doing when they're doing Ojamashimas, like for the knocking, the vocalist just knocks the mic against his head, and and they're just like all just like screwing around, and it's just really fun, and somehow it works. I think it's because it's like the music that they're playing is like that heavy, like it's heavy. It's that like raw like metal that you can just kind of let sound rough and raw and wild, and it doesn't require like this nice like nobody's gonna complain about like Mami Direta's production value, like that kind of a thing, right? Is because like just that general style and attitude that they've got. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be raw, yeah, it's supposed to be rough, and abrasive and stuff. So, but Batsu may not be able to sing well yet, but it's chaotic and it fits. Yeah, there's that. Or I also noticed on their live clips, like his voice is like almost non-existent, like in some of those live performances. But I almost feel like that might just be the venue that they were at, or a combination of the two, because like they were like pretty small venues, and like I didn't see any like earpieces obviously or anything like that, and they're just playing this really heavy music, and like it just seemed really hard to it just seems like it'd be really hard to sing properly there. But yeah, his voice does seem like he needs a little bit of work, but it's like I feel like he's making it work, like in terms of like his actual like the actual kind of music that he sings. So yeah, so that's about that. I know someone did say please talk about Takeru and Chiyu from Sug's new solo projects. I don't know enough about Chi. I haven't listened to Chiyu's solo project enough. I can speak to Sleepyhead briefly. I won't pull up an image or anything like that. But I will just say, because we've talked about Sleepyhead multiple times on here in the past. I think the direction Takeru's going sounds fantastic. It sounds like pop music. It's obviously pop music, but it's like I'm not opposed to pop music, or pop rock music. And I thought the last PV he put out was fantastic. I think he's nailing the sound. I think he's nailing the style of the the vibe he's going for. Really excited about this first album when it comes out, if it hasn't come out already. I don't think it's come out already. But we will definitely be covering it for sure. We definitely want to talk about it. So Isoku said State of LMC. They're good. They're doing really good, but nothing's happened since Veda. So there's oh wait, sorry, that's an old one. I thought that was the new. Why did the chat scroll up or mess up on me? Sorry guys, the chat glitched the hell out for a second. Yeah. So Sleepyhead, great. So yeah, in conclusion, how do we feel about J-Rock? How do we feel about just in general? It's pretty interesting overall. It's kind of hard at this point to really classify J-Rock to look at it like the same way that maybe we might have looked at it like 10 years ago, which was like, oh, it's all these bands, they're all together, they're all doing the same thing. It's like, no, they're all over the place. And it's not even obvious, like, if they're J-Rock, if they're technically J-Metal, if they've turned into a pop artist. V-kei bands are like becoming more and more exclusive, like more and more codified in terms of the sound that's associated with them. It might not be the same consistent sound, but there's definitely trends. And then like if there's like wild experimentation, there's a really good chance it's a V-kei band. And that's like one scene inside of J-Rock, by the way. Like God knows how many other scenes inside of J-Rock there are that we just don't cover and haven't found, that it's like, how can you draw comparisons between the two and stuff like that. So it's almost like a misleading title at this point, because when you hear K-pop, when you hear J-Rock, you think of K-pop, and like when like K-pop is a decent descriptor because it does describe like pop bands, and they're all kind of in the same general ballpark. It makes sense. But J-Rock is just, you have to explain, is extremely diverse, and they're not afraid to experiment with all kinds of genres and mixing it in with rock music. And it's it's like, where do you even start? But in general, like the mainstream J-Rock bands, they all seem to be doing pretty solid. And then there's like these breakout indie J-Rock bands. I think My First Story, I'm not sure if they're still indie or major, but it's like there's these like bands like there seems to be a nice pipeline from going from an indie band to a major band successfully without having to like turn into a pop band or anything like that. So we seem to be getting closer and closer to just being like, oh, there's going to be this indie rock band is going to grow up and just become a more developed version of themselves, and then they're gonna just be popular in the mainstream. And it's like, okay, that's pretty dope. So that's kind of been the way it's been in the past, and with exceptions, but I kind of hope to see that happen more and more. Definitely something for everyone. Definitely not just baby metal, So I do feel everyone's pain. When we talked about baby metal, I saw a lot of salt in the chat, but I get it. You guys probably, if you're talking to a friend about J-rock or rock music from Japan, they'll be like, baby metal. So I get it. But and then also visual K scene is like alive and well, So it's the barriers between major and indie have kind of disintegrated to a certain extent in terms of being able to tell which is which, and there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of playing fast and loose with stuff, and it's been a pretty crazy first half of 2018. I think the visual K scene, at least, we'll see about the J-rock in general side. It's going to be a very star-studded second half. There's a lot of potential hits coming out. It's like kind of a lock. I would say, in my opinion, don't want to jinx it, but it's kind of like a guarantee. Or safe to assume that like the Gazette album's going to be a hit. The LMC album's going to be a hit, but there's these newer bands that are putting out albums like Acme and Reiten Ichigram no Gosan and Mami Reta. It's like and these are bands that there's some real potential for these to be some really, really good albums, like better than like we would normally expect from a band their size. So so just a lot to look forward to. I would just say in general, I'm predicting the second half second half of 2018 is going to have, a much larger influence of exciting music, is what it's looking like to me than the first half. The first half was a little bit hit and miss, I think, for a lot of people, but it was more of like a growing pains kind of hit or miss, like a lot of bands trying new things. I'm just seeing what's on the schedule just in the next few months. It's like there's a lot of potential, so much potential for like some solid releases that even if some of them kind of flop or aren't quite up to what we were hoping for, there's just too many potentially good ones. I don't think they would all fail, or a majority. So, so with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks so much, guys, for sticking through it with us. God, there's a fair amount of you that's stuck through this whole thing. This is the first time we've done like a long stream in a while. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. If you guys like this stream, please give us a like, subscribe, and share the stream. I saw some people asking about the Discord stream that I was going to do, where we were going to have people call in. I am working on that, and I did say that it was going to be in a few days. That few days has turned into like a week and a half, and so like gomenasai, I'm very sorry. I have to find the time to get everything set up with that, because the way we're gonna I can't go too much into it, but what I realized is that in order to do that stream, I have to finish a special project I've been working on and can't quite talk about yet. So I got to do that, and then we can do the call-ins. So very, very sorry about that. It will happen, and I will definitely prioritize the people that I know have been waiting for it, to call in when it happens. So, all right. I hope everybody has a great weekend, rest of the weekend, and great week next week. The Gazette's album is coming out next week, so we are going to announce what we're doing in terms of, streams for that, special streams. Currently in the process of getting all that set up and scheduled. So look for that in the next day or two. That would be the biggest thing to look out for. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Peace out.